Chapter 698. How long? The instant the sinner's blood scattered the clouds appeared, the altar erupted with radiance that covered the sky. The radiance was like water, forming a giant screen of light on the altar. An astonishing scene appeared on the screen of light. Kill! Shouts of war shook the heavens, energy rushing into the world. An ancient city appeared on the screen of light. This was a boundless battlefield, shouts of war shaking the heavens. Streak after streak of radiance surged, stars collapsing, the void exploding. This was an incomparably intense battle. A group of incomparably valiant existences fought in the sky dome above. Radiance erupted in the sky, as if millions and millions of suns exploded, destroying heaven and earth. Even the aftermath of the battle shattered expanses of the starry sky, stars falling like rain, terrifying to an unimaginable degree. In the end, the enemies were wiped out. Under the afterglow of the setting sun, 7 stalwart figures supported each other as they staggered towards the ancient city. Every single one of them was seriously injured, their bodies covered in cuts and bruises, to the extent where even their deep white bones were exposed. However, their tall and straight bodies still stood resolutely, as if their sturdy backs would never bend. 7 people, 7 kings defended this ancient city, never backing down, never cowering back. However, the battle was endless, the enemies endless. These 7 kings had been fighting all this time. They had been killing each other, and they had been standing with their backs straight. The little stone and Xiaohao discovered that on every single king's forehead, a mysterious and unfathomable symbol appeared. Radiance rushed into the heavens, piercing the heavens, shaking up heaven and earth. Ancestors. At this moment, all of the blood in their bodies surged, roaring. On Xiaohao and the little stone's foreheads, the mysterious symbols erupted with brilliant and glorious holy light. It was more dazzling than before, more glorious than before. As expected, we aren't sinners. We are the descendants of desolate borders, 7 kings. Our bloodline represents glory and glory. Xiaohao and the little stone's blood surged, their hands tightly clenching in a fist, so excited their entire bodies were shaking. Even though you already sent the old, weak, women and children from desolate borders Imperial Pass to Stone Village, even though he opened a transport formation that led directly to Desolate Border, Xiaohao and the Little Stone never personally saw their ancestors' heroic appearances. At this moment, on the screen of light, they saw the unparalleled glory of their ancestor conquering the world, causing their blood to boil. We're still fighting. We have always been fighting. If the 7 kings don't die, Imperial Pass won't be broken. A deafening roar rang out from the light screen. Then, the light screen trembled, and the radiance in the sky gradually faded. The final scene was a black ship crossing the void and creating a huge spatial rift before rushing into it. This place is indeed related to the ancestors. Xiaohao took a deep breath and said to little Shi. The clansman who came back from the border said that in order to seal the ominous thing, King Kong chased after the black ship and disappeared without a trace. This place must have something to do with the Vajra King. Maybe we can even find the King Kong. The 7 kings of the desolate border were of the same breath and branch. Although the King Kong king was not the ancestor of the Stone clan, the King Kong king was not the king of Stone. However, in little Shi and Xiaohao's hearts, the 7 kings were their ancestors. Go! The 2 of them continued forward. After walking for a long time, they finally stepped into a huge door. This is the cabin? Isn't this a world of its own? In front of them was a vast and boundless world. Similarly, there were traces of battle everywhere in this world. Broken mountains and rivers, shattered great earth, as well as countless corpses. The scene before their eyes left the 2 of them shocked and a bit shocked. There were actually so many people who participated in the intense battle back then. Something's not right. These corpses don't come from the ancestors' era. The 2 of them quickly discovered that the corpses on the ground didn't originate from a mortal ancient, but rather corpses from various eras of this great era. From the remaining clothes, the two of them discovered at least a few clothes from different eras. Stop guessing. These are all people who mistakenly entered this place after countless years, ultimately dying here. This type of place isn't something normal people can come to. Little Pagoda explained, however, you two have bloodline resonance, so even without immortal artifacts, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. They continued forward. Soon after, the two of them discovered an enormous stone cauldron below a broken mountain. On the enormous stone cauldron, multicolored light erupted, immortal light falling like rain. However, in the midst of this auspicious and sacred radiance, a bloody scene was revealed. There were countless heads. Amidst the multicolored light, one could vaguely see countless heads sealed within the cauldron. What's going on? The divine and glorious scene before them already showed that the heads in this cauldron came from a mortal ancient era. However, why did they chop off the heads of immortals and seal them here? Sigh. A sigh sounded beside their ears. At this moment, the talisman in Xiaohao's hand that was used to collect the dragon horn suddenly erupted with a black and white light. Within this light, Li Yu's figure appeared. He looked at the cauldron in front of him and let out a long sigh. Ancestral Master, why are you here? Seeing Li Yu suddenly appear, the two of them were surprised and delighted. They hurriedly bowed to Li Yu. No need to be so courteous. Li Yu waved his hand and floated the two of them up. Then he sighed and looked at the cauldron in front of him. Inside are the heads of immortals. Back then, in order to avoid being corroded by the darkness, the immortals who died in battle could only chop off their heads and seal them. Only then could they ensure that their bodies would not be corroded by the darkness and would not become a member of the enemy after death. The tragedy of that year is beyond your imagination. Li Yu shook his head and pressed his hand on the cauldron in front of him. During these years, I have also researched a way to purify the darkness. Fellow Taoists, I will definitely restore your bodies to their original state. I will not let you die without an intact corpse. He reached out his hand, and the huge stone cauldron flew into the air and landed in Li Yu's hand. With a flick of his sleeve, the stone cauldron disappeared. Li Yu kept it in the resource vault. In the final land of opportunity in immortal ancient ruins, there were countless headless immortals sealed in crystal coffins. The heads of those people were in this cauldron. The bodies of immortals, even if their souls were annihilated, their bodies still retained their vitality. For such a group of immortals, as long as their heads were placed and their souls reconstructed, they would be excellent fighters. Li Yu naturally would not let these people go. Even in this world, the battle strength of a true immortal was not much. However, if he brought them back to South Parting Island in the main world, they would be a group of tyrannical subordinates. One must know that until now, Li Yu did not have any true immortals as his subordinates on South Parting Island. Ancestral Master, is this the place where our ancestor, the Vajra King, disappeared? Is the Vajra King still here? Xiaohao looked up at Li Yu and asked anxiously. Back then, the Vajra King chased after the black ship and disappeared into the void. I also calculated for a long time that the black ship would appear here. As for the Vajra King, Li Yu sighed and shook his head. Follow me, and you will know. Chapter 699. Let's go. As he spoke, Li Yu's incarnation brought the two of them and flew all the way. In a moment, they arrived in front of a cliff abyss. This was a huge bottomless abyss. Under the pitch-black abyss, extremely terrifying roars could be faintly heard. An extremely rich power of darkness pervaded and rippled, making one's hair stand on end and tremble all over. More importantly, at the edge of the abyss, a tall and majestic figure stood with his head held high. This figure was glorious and majestic, tall and burly, exuding a majestic and vast aura. He stood at the edge of the abyss, motionless, as if he would not fall until the end of time. King Kong, Xiaohao, and Little Stone shouted in unison, even their voices trembling. This was one of the 7 kings of the wilderness, the King Kong. Sigh. Li Yu shook his head and sighed. The King Kong was a peerless hero, but unexpectedly, He fell here. The King Kong was already dead. Is there a fellow cultivator here? And the descendant of the seven kings? It's good that you're here. I broke through the wilderness, finally caught up, and sealed the darkness. A thought fluctuation was transmitted intermittently from the unyielding body. However, this was just an obsession, not even a remnant soul. The real King Kong had already fallen long ago. Fellow cultivator, you've worked hard. Liu walked forward and bowed. Unfortunately, I still came too late. Not at all. You came at the right time. I almost couldn't suppress it anymore. I'll have to trouble you here. The Vajra monarch's thoughts contained a faint smile of relief. Fellow cultivator, you've worked hard. Leave this to I. Liu nodded. Your Excellency King Kong, please rest for a while. Rest? Haha, I actually died a long time ago. Now, I can finally rest for a while. The King Kong's body swayed slightly. With a fellow cultivator here to suppress the darkness, the obsession had disappeared. The King Kong's remnant consciousness could no longer be maintained. No, it's just a temporary rest. Liu smiled. With a wave of his hand, an invisible wave swept out and collected the Vajra King into the resource vault. He even had designs on the body of an immortal. How could Liu let go of the body of an immortal king like the Vajra King? Naturally, he put it away without hesitation. Roar! The moment the Vajra King disappeared, an earth-shattering roar resounded from the bottom of the abyss. The endless darkness suddenly boiled, and an extremely dense, dark, and ominous aura violently erupted. Roar! 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 At the same time, in the vast space behind the abyss, the corpses that had fallen to the ground earlier were howling and crawling up from the ground. These countless corpses howled, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws as they charged towards the crowd at the edge of the cliff like a raging tide that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. Oomph. I've already arrived, and you still dare to be impudent? Liu let out a cold snort, and the radiance that filled the sky swept out. The intertwining black and white radiance covered the entire sky. A taiji diagram enveloped the area, and the surging darkness immediately ceased. Countless corpses that had just crawled up instantly fell to the ground. Dark and ominous. I have not spent all these years researching ways to deal with all of you in vain. With a press of his palm, the entire world shook with a rumble. The taiji diagram that blotted out the sky and covered the earth transformed into a boundless seal. All the dark and ominous aura was sealed within the taiji heavenly prison. Along with the corpses that had been corroded by the darkness and the endless darkness at the bottom of the abyss, everything was swept away. Return. With a flick of his sleeve, the taiji diagram instantly shrank and disappeared into Liu's sleeve. In an instant, the jade world became clear, and the sky was high and the clouds were light. After the dark and ominous aura was swept away, the entire space was peaceful, and there was no longer any trace of dark and ominous aura. Mighty Ancestral Master, seeing Liu use such a remarkable ability, Xiao Hao and Little Rock bowed and congratulated him, cheering in unison. The Grand Empyrean is indeed extraordinary. Ordinary immortal kings wouldn't dare to provoke such an ominous aura of darkness unless they sealed it. This Grand Empyrean actually absorbed all the power of darkness here in one go and cleansed it completely, as expected of an almighty senior. Lil Pagoda was also very shocked by Liu's actions. One had to know that the power of darkness could even corrode immortal emperors. Ordinary immortal kings couldn't do anything about it all. They could only seal it and limit its range of spread. There's actually a unique treasure here. Liu raised his head and swept a glance at the ground behind him. With a wave of his hand, a gray, ancient sword landed in his hand. This was a 4-foot-long sword that was similar to a Han sword. However, not only was this sword gray and unremarkable, the blade hadn't even been sharpened. It seemed to be an incomplete sword embryo. This was the Daluo sword embryo. Half of the darkness immortal emperor's body is still sealed within the Daluo sword embryo. The reason I appeared here is for this thing. With a wave of his hand, the Daluo sword embryo landed in the resource vault. He dismantled the sword embryo and took out a copper coffin hidden in a small space opened up within the sword embryo. The immortal emperor's body fell into Li Yu's hands. The material of this sword is quite extraordinary. With a wave of his hand, the dismantled Daluo sword embryo was refined again. After washing away the imprint that the darkness immortal emperor left in the sword embryo, Li Yu took out the Daluo sword embryo again. For cultivators, a weapon that suits them is the best help. With a wave of his hand, he handed the Daluo sword embryo to Lil Stone. This sword is only a sword embryo, but the material is extraordinary. It has the foundation to grow into a peerless immortal weapon. It's suitable to accompany you as you grow. Thank you for the treasure, Ancestral Master. Lil Stone received the Daluo sword embryo and was very happy inside. Although Lil Pagoda was an immortal weapon, it wasn't one that he personally refined. Although it was a great help now, when he grew, Lil Pagoda would definitely have a problem of not being suitable for him. This Daluo sword embryo would become the most suitable weapon for him as he grew. Xiaohao, before this incarnation of I returns, I'll help you refine that pair of dragon horns. Li Yu turned to look at Xiaohao and nodded with a smile. A pair of dragon horns is like tree branches. It's definitely not suitable for you. What shape do you want? I'll have to trouble you, Ancestral Master. Xiaohao presented the pair of dragon horns. Disciple used the White Tiger's Fong dual blades before. I find it very suitable. Ancestral Master, please refine them into dual blades. Dual blades are fine too. With a wave of his hand, the pair of dragon horns landed in his hand. With a flash of 5-colored light, the pair of dragon horns instantly turned into 2 long, narrow, and sharp swords that looked like Tang swords. Thank you, Ancestral Master. After receiving the dual blades, Xiaohao swung them a few times. He felt that they were very suitable for him. Xiaohao happily thanked Li Yu. Now that this matter is over, I will send you out. With a wave of his hand, he swept the 2 of them up. With a wave of his hand, he tore open the void and sent them out of the void crack. They landed on the vast land at the entrance of the immortal ancient world. This black ship is also an extraordinary item. An immortal artifact level carriage is suitable for modifying my 9 dragons Rui carriage. The eternal immortal manor was placed on Dragon's son Bashia's back. After refining the 9 dragons Rui carriage, he hadn't used it many times. After taking this black ship, he could refine the 9 dragons Rui carriage. His figure broke through the void and arrived in the void. With a wave of his hand, the huge black ancient ship instantly shrank into a small boat and landed in Li Yu's palm. With a wave of his sleeve, he put it away. The immortal emperor's remnant body in the Daluo sword embryo. The value of this item is simply immeasurable. Li Yu chuckled. His figure instantly disappeared without a trace. Chapter 700. The immortal emperor's ruined body is finally in my hands. Inside Supreme Palace, Li Yu looked at the copper coffin in the resource storage, inwardly overjoyed. This thing is a great tool for showing off. The ruined soul in the rotten wooden chest, the ruined body in the copper coffin, darkness immortal emperor's half that wasn't corroded, all of them fell into Li Yu's hands. This way, many plans could be carried out. The foreign world tree is the key to my advancement. With the immortal emperor's ruined body in my hands, I can sweep through the foreign realm, unleash a war of revenge. Li Yu wanted to break through the immortal king realm, advance into immortal emperor, so he had to analyze a complete great world's heaven and earth laws. The 9 heavens 10 earths were already ruined, heavenly Tao lacking. Regardless of whether it was the world tree or the heaven and earth origin core, they couldn't satisfy Li Yu's requirements. He could only set his sights on the foreign realm's world tree. The moment I've been waiting for has finally arrived. Li Yu released a sigh. He really had waited for too long. Even though he long knew that there was an immortal emperor's ruined body in the black ship, the black ship drifted through the void, continuously changing positions. The void was vast and boundless. Even with Li Yu's abilities, he still couldn't find this black ship in the void. Only when immortal ancient ruins opened did he know that the black ship would arrive at that void crack. Only now did the immortal emperor's ruined body truly enter his hands. That is why the time for revenge has already arrived. With a wave of his hand, streaks of information were sent to the various immortal kings through communication talismans. Heavenly Sovereign is planning to attack the foreign realm. After receiving the information, everyone was shocked, hurriedly hurrying back to Stone Village. A moment later, the void trembled. Figures stepped out from the void one after another, arriving before Liu. Chongming King, Swan and Eye King, Silver Phoenix King, White Crane King, Willow Deity, Surging Waves King, Taoist Gold, number 2 under heaven. Everyone appeared in Supreme Palace. Tao Brother Most High, your respected self is planning to attack the foreign realm? Even though all of us have long harbored thoughts of revenge, with our current strength, we don't have a clear advantage, right? The restricted region Lord looked at Liu with a bit of confusion, asking this. This was also what everyone was wondering. After all, everyone paid close attention to the foreign realm's information. They all knew that there were at least more than 10 undying king-level existences. If they attacked the other side right now, it would definitely be another situation of being outnumbered. Even though it was much better than the bitterness of a mortal ancient great era, none of the undying kings from the other side were easy to deal with. Fighting alone against many, victory or defeat was hard to say. Since I have gathered everyone here, I am naturally confident. This time, when we attack the other side, I have absolute confidence in winning. Liu smiled and nodded at the crowd. With a wave of his hand, the aura of an immortal emperor flashed. Even though it was just a flash, this aura still caused the entire world to tremble violently. It was as if space was collapsing and the world was about to be destroyed. Emperor's aura? Celestial venerable. You become an emperor? Feeling this aura, everyone jumped up in shock. Their eyes widened as they looked at Liu in shock. I'm still a little short. I haven't really broken through to the king realm. Liu sighed and shook his head. It's not that easy to become an emperor. However, I also have some understanding of my own path to becoming an emperor. I wonder how many times the Celestial Venerable can use that power just now? The Surging Waves King's eyes lit up, and he clenched his fists tightly. If I can use it many times, we will definitely win this battle. Everyone also looked at Liu, their faces full of hope. If the Celestial Venerable could display such divine might, then the day of revenge would be right in front of them. I can use it at least 8 to 10 times. Liu smiled and said a number. In fact, this was countless times less. With the immortal emperor's remnant soul and body in hand, before all the power in the immortal emperor's remnant body was exhausted, Liu completely had the attack power of an immortal emperor. There was no limit to the number of times he could use it. However, there was no need to explain these details too clearly. That's great. We will definitely win this battle, even if it was only 8 times. Releasing 8 attacks that exceeded the king realm could completely kill or cripple 8 immortal kings. Together with everyone's combined strength, sweeping through the other side was no longer a dream. The humiliation of losing back, then, can finally be avenged. The Surging Waves King roared towards the sky. Without end, Samsara, do you all see this? We're going to get revenge. Taoist Yellow Gold tightly clenched his fists, so excited his entire body was shaking. Millions and millions of years of hatred. We will wipe out this humiliation in one fell swoop. Everyone's blood surged, battle intent surging. To resist foreign aggression, we must first pacify our internal affairs. Liu gave everyone a look and then nodded. In the 9 heavens, 10 earths, there are still some unstable elements. In order to prevent them from coming out to cause trouble while we are fighting the other side, we must quell the internal troubles in one fell swoop. Is it those restricted regions? The restricted region, Lord shook his head with a smile. There are indeed a few restricted regions that are not too peaceful. This is precisely the case. Liu nodded and said, Burial Earth, that type of restricted region, naturally does not need to be disturbed. However, those two from Fallen Immortal Ridge are quite restless. Fallen Immortal Ridge's Golden Monkey King and another Immortal King. In the original timeline, when Heavenly Emperor Huang became an Immortal King, they surrounded and attacked him, leading to Heavenly Emperor Huang's death. He was buried in Burial Earth for 500,000 years, and only then did he revive. These two fellas were quite restless, to the extent where they even had a bit of relationship with the other side. When starting a war against the other side, they naturally had to first get rid of these unstable elements. Golden Monkey King, that fella, wasn't a good thing to begin with. The other Immortal King who achieved the Tao through Origin Stone previously attacked without End King in Immortal Ancient Era, similarly not a good thing. Number 2 under Heaven glared out with a pair of dragon eyes, releasing a heavy snort. There's nothing to say. Let's go beat him to death. This time, when we head to the other side, I plan to use Yu Qian's secret path. We just happen to be passing by Fallen Immortal Ridge as well. So let's just make a trip along the way. Liu nodded. He got up and looked towards everyone, laughing. However, before that, we still have to see an old friend. There are still old friends in this world? Could it be that the Empyrean revived another one? Everyone looked towards Liu with pleasant surprise, feeling great admiration towards Liu's heaven-defying methods of reviving others. Black Tortoise King hasn't died yet. However, his injuries are rather serious. His cultivation only able to suppress his injuries, not having much strength left. Liu said with a smile, I only learned that Black Tortoise King was still in this world by chance. This trip will help him recover from his injuries. We'll have another helper. Huh, that old tortoise still isn't dead? Number 2 under Heaven roared with laughter. That fella isn't all that good at fighting, but he's quite good at taking a beating. Apart from the divine striking stone, this old one didn't want to fight against him the most back then. Let's go. Let's go. I was just about to pay that old tortoise a visit. After millions and millions of years, they still heard that an old friend was still in this world. Everyone was extremely happy, all of them beaming with joy. Then I will lead the way. Liu leapt out, tearing through the void, hurrying towards Xian province of the 3,000 provinces. Black Tortoise King, the old tortoise, as well as the damn fatty Chao Yuxing's master. Liu made some inquiries, previously having Jin Kai find that half-crippled old tortoise. An Immortal King expert was also suitable to be roped in as a hired thug. Liu, this type of person who was used to being a mastermind behind the scenes, didn't care how strong he was anymore, starting to habitually pull in hired thugs. Chapter 701. Xian Province was not famous in the 3,000 provinces of the upper world. This was because there were no major sects that were famous in the 3,000 provinces, only some small sects and various wandering cultivators. The reason why the major sects did not dare to come was naturally because they had vaguely heard that there was an old fart in Xian Province who was not to be trifled with. At this moment, in a city in Xian Province, a slovenly old Taoist was carrying a banner with the words, Iron Mouth Straight, written on it. He shook a bell in one hand as he walked past unsteadily. Young man, I see that your glabella is shining and your face is flushed red. This time, good luck is upon you. The old Taoist stopped a young man in tight clothes and tried to fool him. Go, go, go. Before the old Taoist could finish, he was pushed away by the young man in tight clothes. You old thing, you're lying again. Last time you told me that when the red lawn stars moved, there would be good news, but in the end, there was nothing. You want to lie to me again this time? Ahem. Last time, my eyes were playing tricks on me. This time, it's definitely not wrong. Definitely. The old Taoist coughed a few times awkwardly and wanted to continue, but the young man in tight clothes flicked his sleeves and turned to leave, completely ignoring him. Sigh. This business is getting harder and harder to do. The old Taoist sighed. Why is it getting harder and harder to fool young people nowadays? Old turtle. So you're in such a miserable state? Ha ha. The heavens are really fair. How satisfying. A burly man with bulging muscles blocked the old Taoist with a laugh. His huge fists were clenched so tightly that they made cracking sounds. Old turtle, you tricked me so badly back then. This time, I have to settle the old score properly. Huh? You. When the old turtle saw this burly man, his entire body trembled. His turbid old eyes suddenly lit up, and his entire body trembled with excitement. You old lizard, you're not dead yet? Bah, I'm so lucky, how can I die? This burly man was naturally second in the world. Ha, old turtle, I'm here to find you too. Taoist Gold had his hands behind his back and walked unsteadily in front of the old Taoist. He raised his head proudly. Old man, didn't you say that I would die back then? Do you see? I's not dead either. Jin Yuan Bao, you're not dead either? The old Taoist widened his eyes. We didn't die either. At this time, Taoist Jade Void, Taoist Chongming, Taoist Yeshio, Silver Phoenix King, Lord Surging Waves, Willow Deity, and Li Yu appeared together. White Crane King, King Chongming, King Kuei, Silver Phoenix King? Also, was that an ancestral guardian spirit? None of you are dead? This old Taoist was naturally the Black Tortoise King. Seeing everyone appear, Black Tortoise King's eyeballs almost fell out. It's all thanks to the Grand Empyrean's kindness that we have the chance to return to the world. The Lord of the Restricted Area nodded emotionally before introducing Li Yu to King Black Tortoise. Old Turtle, this is Grand Empyrean, Taoist expert, I's close friend. He is also the master of Halcyon, Swan Ni, and Silver Phoenix. Grand Empyrean? The Black Tortoise King looked at Li Yu in confusion. He frowned in thought, but he could not remember when there was such a person. I am Grand Empyrean. Greetings, Taoist Black Tortoise. Li Yu smiled and greeted the Black Tortoise King. I went to Realm C early in Immortal Ancient and missed the battle of Immortal Ancient. It's not strange that Taoist Black Tortoise doesn't know So it's Grand Empyrean. I'm Black Tortoise. Greetings, Grand Empyrean. The old Taoist Black Tortoise hurriedly greeted Li Yu. Taoist Black Tortoise, I see that you seem to be seriously injured and have yet to recover. If Taoist Black Tortoise trusts, why don't you let I treat you? Li Yu wanted a helper, so he naturally couldn't get a half-dead helper. Treating the Black Tortoise King was a must. Grand Empyrean, I'm extremely grateful for your help. Previously, he heard from White Crane King that they were all revived by the Grand Empyrean. The old Taoist Black Tortoise was also looking forward to the Grand Empyrean's treatment. Everyone, please enter my cave abode. The old Taoist Black Tortoise waved his hand and shot out a talisman. With a flash of light, everyone was teleported into the old Taoist Black Tortoise's cave abode. Taoist Black Tortoise, there's no time to lose. I will treat your injuries first. Li Yu waved his hand and released the creation furnace, making an inviting gesture to the old Taoist Black Tortoise. I'll have to trouble you, Grand Empyrean. The old Taoist Black Tortoise leaped into the creation furnace. Refined, he formed a few hand seals with his hands and shot out a spiritual light. The creation furnace shook violently, and a five-colored light surged. The various complicated Tao laws and powers accumulated in the old Taoist Black Tortoise's body were all swept away. With a surge of vitality, the old Taoist Black Tortoise broke off his shackles and cleared away his old troubles. He returned to normal in an instant. Grand Empyrean, you are indeed very resourceful. Thank you, Grand Empyrean. After leaping out of the creation furnace, the old Taoist Black Tortoise was full of vigor and vitality. He returned to his prime and no longer looked like a hunchbacked old Taoist. Let's go. Let's kill our way into the foreign domain. Take revenge. Second Under Heaven laughed loudly and grabbed the old Taoist Black Tortoise, telling him about the Grand Empyrean's revenge plan. The Empyrean has such divine might. That's great. That's great. The time for revenge has finally arrived. The old Taoist Black Tortoise laughed loudly and followed everyone. They broke through the void and traversed the sky. A moment later, everyone arrived at Great Red Sky, Fallen Immortal Ridge. Golden Retriever, come out and die. Just as they arrived outside Fallen Immortal Ridge, second under heaven, raised his head and roared at fallen immortal ridge. The mighty sound wave shook heaven and earth, and the mountains in front of them exploded. The huge wind caused the entire fallen immortal ridge to shake violently. Who dares to be impudent in my fallen immortal ridge? A furious roar sounded, and two figures broke through the air. Golden Lion Monarch and Hunyuan Monarch charged out furiously. Then they saw a total of 10 immortal kings standing in front of them. Fellow Taoists, 10 immortal kings blocking the door. This grand scene was simply too frightening. Cold sweat broke out on Golden Lion Monarch and Hunyuan Monarch's foreheads. I intend to gather all of you to protect the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Since the two of you have settled down in great red sky, you're also part of the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Naturally, you should contribute to the 9 heavens and 10 earths. What do the two of you think? Liu stepped forward and explained his intentions to Golden Lion Monarch and Hunyuan Monarch. Fellow Taoist, must be joking. Golden Lion Monarch laughed. We have formed our own forbidden zone and cut off the secular world, ignoring external matters. The matters of the world have nothing to do with us anymore. Please forgive us for not being able to accept fellow Taoist's invitation. Oh, is that so? Liu nodded and looked at Hunyuan Monarch. What does fellow Taoist Hunyuan Monarch think? Golden Lion Monarch and I advance and retreat together, so it is naturally the same. Liu glanced at Hunyuan Monarch. We have long stopped caring about external matters. The secular world has nothing to do with us. I hope fellow Taoists can forgive us. The two of you have a point. Liu smiled and nodded. In that case, let's talk about karma. Back then, Hunyuan Monarch ambushed Monarch without end, causing Monarch without end to go into battle with injuries and ultimately perish. Golden Lion Monarch took advantage of Phoenix Monarch's death and stole half of Phoenix Monarch's white pagoda and indestructible scripture. It's time to settle this karma. Are you trying to bully us with your power? Golden Lion Monarch and Hunyuan Monarch's expressions changed when they heard Liu's words. That's right. You're right. We are bullying you. Liu waved his hand, and a black and white light shot into the sky. A monstrous divine might that caused heaven and earth to tremble, space to collapse, and all living beings to tremble in fear swept out in all directions. Seal. The Taiji seal was activated with the power of an immortal emperor. Its divine might was monstrous and unimaginably terrifying. The two immortal kings were unable to retaliate and were sealed by the Taiji seal. Grand Empyrean actually has this kind of divine might. At this moment, not only was the new black tortoise Taoist given a fright, even the others were extremely shocked. With this kind of divine might, they had even more confidence in slaughtering their way into the other side for revenge. Chapter 702. The internal threat has been resolved. Let's go. After keeping the Golden Monkey King and Hunyuan King in the resource warehouse, Liu turned around and led the group to the Yutian secret passage. After a while, the group broke through the void and arrived at the secret place. I didn't expect that the passage we set up to attack the foreign domain would come in handy one day. The Lord of the Forbidden Zone, White Crane King, looked at the void passage in front of him and sighed. I went to the foreign domain last time. I also left a positioning mark there. This passage is suitable for us to kill our way into the foreign domain. After activating the teleportation formation, the world changed instantly. Stepping out of the teleportation formation, the group arrived at an ancient palace. This place has the aura of a time beast. Could it be the Scarlet King's cave residence? Feeling the remnant aura of the time beast in the space, the group was shocked. The Grand Empyrean had placed the teleportation point in the Scarlet King's lair. Could it be that the Scarlet King had been killed by the Sky Empyrean? The Grand Empyrean had already killed the Scarlet King a long time ago, so the Sky Empyrean brought Xiaohao and the others here to rebuild their foundations and did such a big thing. Even the Scarlet King was killed by the Sky Empyrean. Willow Deity also knew that Liu brought Xiaohao and the others to the foreign domain to rebuild their foundations, but she didn't expect the Grand Empyrean to do such a shocking thing. The Scarlet King wasn't an ordinary person. He was a peerless giant among the foreign domain's immortal kings. His cultivation had reached the peak of the immortal king realm and was already on the path to becoming an emperor. Such a peerless giant with such terrifying strength was killed by the Grand Empyrean without a sound. Thinking of how the Grand Empyrean sealed the Golden Monkey King and the others, everyone was shocked. The Sky Empyrean's cultivation had far exceeded theirs and reached a higher level. This was the Emperor Road? Everyone, the last time I came, I met the U-Ancestor. The U-Ancestor is still one of us. Liu looked at the group and nodded. Now, we have entered the foreign domain. The enemy is right in front. He reached out and pulled out the sky splitter at his waist. An extremely sharp sword, Qi, rushed into the sky and tore it apart. After billions of years, we have killed our way into the enemy's land. Fellow Taoists who fought bloody battles back then, I have avenged you. Kill. Sweep through the other side. Wipe away our past humiliation. Flatten the other side. Wipe away our past humiliation. The 10 immortal kings released their auras at the same time, and the mighty divine might shook the heavens and the earth. Boom! Heaven and earth shook, and the void trembled. The 10 immortal kings all erupted with power, making the entire foreign realms heaven and earth tremble. The stars in the sky swayed and fell. Countless stars were destroyed, and the stars fell like rain. Divine might filled the sky. What's going on? The Scarlet King's territory was the first to bear the brunt of the attack. Under this monstrous might, countless time beasts were turned into fine powder. Even some powerful undyings were shaken to the point of spitting out blood. Before they even made a move, just the might they unleashed together was already enough to pulverize millions of miles of mountains and rivers. Everything on the ground was swept away. With the extinction of the Scarlet King's bloodline, we announce our arrival. Liu towered in the void, sword pointing towards the heavens. The sword of revenge has already been raised. Foreign enemies, after millions and millions of years, we have come. Today is the day of your death. This world will definitely be dyed red with blood. Kill, kill, kill. A sky-shaking roar sounded, the mighty voice engulfing heaven and earth. At this moment, winds and clouds surged, heaven and earth changing colors. The undying realm-time beasts that were still struggling at death's door were also blasted to pieces by this mighty sound wave. Heavenly Sovereign, please allow me to raise this banner. The Surging Waves King produced an iron blood war banner, raising it high into the air, fluttering in the wind. On the bright red great banner, endless blood released resplendent radiance. It was as if the heroes who had previously shed their blood were roaring towards the heavens on this banner. Without End King, Reincarnation King, Dragon King, Monk King, Ant King, Stone King, Fire King, Kuan Pung King, Phoenix King, Vermilion Bird King, Vajra King, Greenwood King, Great Ape King. Do you all see this? The heroes who sacrificed their lives back then. Do you all see this? We slaughtered our way into the enemy's nest. We will definitely flatten the foreign realm. We will wipe away our past humiliation. The Surging Waves King's eyes were completely red. He raised his hand, and then the iron blood war banner erupted with heaven-filling radiance, covering heaven and earth, covering the vast sky. Kill! Shouts of war shook the heavens. On this iron blood war banner, it was as if countless figures flickered about, none of them shouting. There were also countless figures laughing loudly in gratification. This type of world-shaking commotion naturally startled the foreign realm's undying kings as well. 10 immortal kings? They actually dare slaughter their way into our land? Within a massive mountain range that connected heaven and earth, a young man's eyes erupted with heaven overflowing killing intent. He reached out his hand, grabbing a golden spear. The number of immortal kings we killed back then wasn't even this many, yet they still dare come to our gates to seek death. This was precisely Anlin, one of the foreign realm's most vicious giants. After raising the spear, Anlin removed the bugle horn at his waist, raising it in front of him. He took a deep breath and then blew the bugle horn. Woo! The vigorous and muffled bugle horn sounded through heaven and earth. Someone actually came knocking on our door? 10 immortal kings? This really is interesting. It's been a long time since I've eaten the flesh of an immortal king. How nostalgic. A giant beast that was as massive as a continent shattered the great earth with a honglong noise, its entire body covered in sharp spikes appearing in the horizon. This was Shuchuo, another giant of the foreign realm. It was rumored that Shuchuo was a first-generation creature born from the corrosion of darkness, a natural darkness overlord, possessing terrifying power to the extreme. At the same time, undying kings rushed out from their nests one after another, their auras covering heaven and earth, making the void release gotcha noises as if it couldn't bear the pressure. They're attacking? They really are attacking? They really are attacking? Within a stone mountain within Gu Clan's encampment, Ancestor, you heard the world-shaking shouts, saw the world-shaking figures. So moved his entire body was shaking. I've waited for countless years. I've carried the name of a traitor for countless years. Today it's finally time for me to hold my head high, wipe away my past humiliation. He reached into his bosom and took out the talisman Liu left him. Ancestor, you pointed out, activating this talisman. A streak of five-colored brilliance enveloped his entire body, a wave of indescribable power cleansing his entire body, removing the injuries left behind from countless years ago, mending his shattered sea of consciousness. When this streak of brilliance scattered, Ancestor Yu's entire body surged, boundless power surging into the sky. At this moment, Ancestor Yu, who had waited for millions and millions of years, accumulated for millions and millions of years, finally stepped into the immortal king realm, moreover soaring into the heavens, reaching the peak of the immortal king realm. Comrades who fought side by side in the past, bathed in blood, I'm coming. Gu Clan has never forgotten our oath. We've never forgotten our foundation. Boundless radiance rushed into the sky. Ancestor, you stepped onto the yin-yang furnace, roaring as he charged into the horizon, into the battlefield. Comrades, the time for revenge has come. Chapter 703. Blood Phoenix Great One, are we not going? On a dark red volcano in the foreign realm, a boundlessly massive blood-colored phoenix was washing its feathers in the volcano's magma. On the side, a blood-colored haired young man bowed respectfully towards the blood phoenix in the magma, asking this. What are we going to do? The blood phoenix raised its head, giving the group of figures with vast auras a look, and then lowered its head, calmly replying. Of course it's to fight. The blood-haired young man seemed to be a bit excited. Blood Phoenix Great One, this is precisely a chance to raise my Blood Phoenix clan's reputation. As long as we display your esteemed self-strength, who in this world would dare look down on my Blood Phoenix clan? We can also become an Emperor clan. We can also... Enough! The Blood Phoenix berated. With a flap of its wings, the blood-haired young man was sent flying. I am a phoenix, not a blood phoenix. After being corroded by darkness, I cannot return to my homeland, can only reside in the foreign realm. However, I'm not the foreign realm's lackey either. After berating him, the blood phoenix stopped, calmly saying, let's not help either side. Regardless of whether it is the foreign realm or the 9 heavens 10 earths, they're no longer my homeland. I do not need to fight for them. Ancestor, you chose to fight for the 9 heavens 10 earths, while the blood phoenix chose not to help either side. However, there were others who chose a different path. Fearless Lion, Darkness Demon Dragon, these 2 clans who betrayed the 9 heavens 10 earths. Right now, they were still standing on the opposite side of the 9 heavens 10 earths. A massive golden lion and a pitch-black demon dragon joined the ranks of the foreign realm's undying kings. The void shook, whistling sounds tearing through the air. Endless powerful figures gathered one after another, the foreign realm's undying kings all appearing. There are actually this many? When he saw the group of heaven overflowing ferocious, undying kings, Even Li Yu was a bit shocked. Including Fearless Lion King and Darkness Dragon King, there were actually close to 30 undying kings in the entire foreign realm. This type of ratio completely exceeded Li Yu's expectations. Killing one isn't a loss. Killing two is still a profit. This old one has had enough of these years of vexation. Today, I vow to fight to the death. Ancestor Yu, who stood on Li Yu's side, roared out with a sinister expression. The yin-yang furnace beneath his feet erupted with heaven overflowing divine might, planning to stake it all. Fellow Taoists, don't be impatient. Li Yu smiled. Since I dared to come, I naturally have some confidence. Confident? All of you must die. At this time, the foreign undying kings also hurried over. At the front was a man who was about 3 meters tall and wore heavy armor. He held a halberd in his hand and sneered as he looked at the crowd. He raised the halberd in his hand and said, "My name is Wu Shang. I'll send you on your way. Kill." At the same time, Enlon, Shichuo, and the other immortal kings all attacked. Powerful divine abilities capable of destroying heaven and earth were unleashed from all directions. The void shattered, and all living things were annihilated. The entire world was trembling and wailing. Several dozen foreign, undying kings took action at the same time, the power surging, as if even heaven and earth were going to be destroyed. In terms of numbers, the foreign, undying kings already exceeded Li Yu and the others by several times. Such terrifying combat strength was simply unimaginably tyrannical. However, even daring to act unbridled before I? Li Yu released a cold snort. He reached out his hand. A wave of boundless power that exceeded the scope of heaven and earth appeared here. It was as if the ruler of heaven and earth, the supreme being of all things, the peak of all power, displaying its incomparable divine might. This was precisely the emperor. The might of an immortal emperor was unmatched throughout the world. The moment this wave of power surged, the entire world began to tremble, releasing a series of ka noises, as if the world itself was howling in grief. Only the heart and the self, apart from the self, everything else was false. The essence of an immortal emperor was precisely this. One's own reality smashed through the falsehood of the outside world, just like slapping a series of soap bubbles. With a sweep of his palm, they all scattered. The joint attacks of the foreign, undying kings, under a casual wave of Li Yu's hand, completely vanished into thin air, turning into nothingness. This is Emperor. Emperor. He is an unmatched emperor monarch. This type of heaven overflowing divine might made the undying kings cry out in alarm. Emperor. This was a legendary cultivation realm. From ancient times until now, there had never been an emperor. However, countless cultivators stepped forward wave after wave, all of them pursuing this supreme cultivation realm that might exist in legends. A legendary emperor actually appeared before their eyes. This made the foreign, undying king's mind stir up great waves. Empyrean is actually this powerful? Ancestor, you never knew that Li Yu had the ability to display emperor might. Now that he saw this type of unmatched divine might, Ancestor Yu was filled with reverence. Empyrean's divine might. Even the immortal kings who had long heard of this before were extremely shocked by the divine might Li Yu erupted with. The Empyrean was already this strong. What do you want us to come here for? To come and cheer for the Empyrean? In reality, this was precisely a bad habit that Li Yu developed after being the mastermind behind the scenes for too long. He had to have absolute certainty before doing anything. Fighting bravely and hot-bloodedly, the spirit of risking one's life, if there was a bit of opportunity, seemed to have already become extremely far from Li Yu. Everyone, pick an opponent. Li Yu called out to everyone around him. Leave the rest to I. Annihilating the joint attack of close to 30 immortal kings with a single strike made Li Yu gain a bit of confidence in the power contained within half an immortal emperor's body. However, the immortal kings were already brought over, so he had to let them move a bit. He couldn't let them watch a show from the side, right? Kill. As such, the group of immortal kings roared as they rushed out, each finding an opponent, fighting fiercely. In that instant, the world became dim, the sun and moon losing their light. The intense impact made the earth shatter, the void explode. Countless stars were blasted to pieces, stars falling like rain, a scene of destruction. Your opponent is me. After taking away 10 immortal kings, there were still close to 20 left. Among them included Amlin, Shuchuo, Wushang, and other giant figures. Liu looked at the group of opponents in front of him, reaching out his palm with a sneer. If you all can take one move from I and not die, then I will release 2 moves. You all are dead meat. Even if you become an emperor, it's not like we don't have a chance to fight with our lives on the line. Amlin looked at Liu with a ferocious face. If you all retreat now, we can guarantee that we will live in peace in the future. If you really want to force us, then we can only fight with our lives on the line. With a wave of his hand, an ancient wooden box appeared in Amlin's hand. This is our world's origin ancient artifact. This is an emperor artifact. You should have just become an emperor not long ago. Once we activate the emperor artifact, it's not like we can't fight with our lives on the line. Origin ancient artifact. I have long heard of it. A faint smile appeared on Liu's face. I can give you some pointers. Above the Immortal King realm is the Quasi-Emperor realm, and then the Emperor realm. A speck of light lingered on his fingertip. Liu smiled and shook his head. This origin ancient artifact of yours is only a Quasi-Emperor artifact, and I have the power of the Emperor realm. This thing doesn't work. With a palm strike, intertwining black and white light swept through heaven and earth. Using the power of the immortal emperor's remnant body to drive the Taiji heavenly prison, the overwhelming light enveloped all the immortal kings in front of him under the Taiji diagram. You force me, Anan roared angrily. He tore open his chest and took out his heart's essence blood, about to smear it on the wooden box as a blood sacrifice to the origin ancient artifact. Freeze! The light of time circulated, freezing everything in the world, and everything returned to stillness. Under the power of the immortal emperor's remnant body, the entire world froze and came to a standstill. Even the other immortal kings were frozen in place. All right, I used a little too much strength. It's not my own strength, so I'm not proficient in controlling it. Liu smiled and shook his head. With a flick of his sleeve, he collected all these immortal kings into the resource vault. After he removed the immobilization spell, everything was over. It's over just like that. Everyone looked at each other, dumbfounded. The powerful enemy that had been entangled with them for hundreds of millions of years was gone, just like that. The divine might of a heavenly venerable was invincible. It was simply too strong. We really just came to applaud and cheer. Yes, you're the teammates who shouted 666. After destroying the immortal kings, there were no more obstacles in obtaining the world tree. Liu was overjoyed. Chapter 704. Just how terrifying were immortal emperors. The ancient immortal kings who struggled bitterly in Realm C deeply understood this. The darkness storms that swept past Realm C's skies from time to time. For immortal kings, this was an extremely terrifying natural disaster. Under this darkness storm, if they didn't set up defenses beforehand, without a sturdy fort, without immortal king artifacts protecting them, even immortal kings would suffer grievances under this darkness storm. Then, just what kind of thing was this darkness storm? The truth was this cruel, leaving one in despair. It was just the turbid air that the dark, immortal emperor exhaled once. From past until now, there were already countless immortal kings who died under this darkness storm. In essence, they were all killed by a single breath of air released by darkness, immortal emperor. When Liu obtained this half-immortal emperor ruined body, he still didn't truly display the immortal emperor's true power. Despite this being the case, the group of foreign, undying kings still didn't have any strength to resist. This was precisely the divine might of an immortal emperor. Sky's sovereign, we obtained a great victory in this battle. How should we deal with the aftermath? After wiping out the undying kings, The other side already didn't have any strength to retaliate. The following aftermath was naturally placed on the agenda. Those so-called emperor clans don't need to exist anymore. These undying kings' lairs should have quite a bit of accumulated wealth. Those are all spoils of war. They cannot be wasted. Lee nodded towards everyone with a face full of smiles. This is the location of the undying kings' lairs. You all can just head there. The undying kings were all collected into the resource storage, so Liu naturally made a copy of their memories. With a wave of his hand, he sent the location to everyone. The immortal kings all assigned targets, all of them heading out to clean up the emperor clans, collect spoils of war. Sky Sovereign, I only wish to eliminate the traitors. The Fearless Lion and Darkness Demon Dragon have already been eliminated by Sky Sovereign, but the Blood Phoenix is still here. The Phoenix King's younger brother actually defected to the other side. This will only bring shame to the Phoenix King. Ancestor Yu gnashed his teeth in anger, feeling great hatred towards these traitors. Blood Phoenix? The Phoenix King's younger brother? Liu nodded. The Blood Phoenix didn't participate in this great battle. It seems like he isn't completely loyal to the other side either. Wait for me to make a trip and meet this Blood Phoenix. Then, I'll go deal with the Fearless Lion and the Dark Demonic Dragon clan first. Yu Ancestor bowed to Li Yu and left, heading to the place where the Fearless Lion and the Dark Dragon lived. He planned to wipe out these traitors once and for all. The Blood Phoenix should be a phoenix that has been corroded by the power of darkness. Li Yu broke through the sky, traversed the sky, and instantly arrived at the Blood Phoenix Mountain. With a glance, he saw the blood-colored phoenix that was still washing its feathers in the lava. You're finally here. The Blood Phoenix in the lava raised her head and looked at Li Yu with a complicated look in her eyes. You have won a great victory. The might of the Emperor Realm was invincible. The humiliation of being defeated in a mortal ancient has been wiped out in one fell swoop, truly worthy of celebration. What are you doing? Cultivation? With your cultivation, you don't need the help of the lava pool to cultivate, do you? Li Yu looked at the Blood Phoenix, soaking in the lava, and felt that his actions were a bit strange. It's just a bath. The Blood Phoenix's eyes revealed a hint of bitterness, as if there was endless grief. I've been washing for many years. I've been washing every day, but I can never wash away this filth, can't wash away this darkness. Raising her blood-colored wings to give it a look, the Blood Phoenix let out a sigh, and then plunged her wings into the lava again, continuously swaying about, as if she was washing clothes covered in filth. Back then, how glorious was the Phoenix bloodline, a family with 2 kings, their names shaking the world. However, after a battle, the phoenix withered away. The immortal bird can also die. Elder brother died in battle, his body and soul turning into nirvana divine flames, taking the enemy down with him. Meanwhile, I was seriously injured after a battle, and then corroded by the power of darkness, ultimately turning into the sinful and inauspicious Blood Phoenix. This power of darkness in my body not only corroded me, it would also infect others. I had no choice but to leave the 9 heavens 10 earths and hide in the other side. These few years, I've lived very hard and also lived very bitterly. Seeing you all already obtain a great victory, I already have no regrets in this life. The Blood Phoenix raised its head and turned to look in the direction of the 9 heavens 10 earths. I wonder if the parasol tree on Phoenix Mountain has bloomed. Unfortunately, with my body of darkness, even after death, I won't be able to return to Phoenix Mountain. Turning its head, the Blood Phoenix looked at Li Yu, smiled, and slowly closed its eyes. Come, what's in all of this? All right. Li Yu smiled and nodded. With a wave of his hand, an invisible wave swept over, and this Blood Phoenix that had completely given up resisting was kept into the resource warehouse. System, purify the power of darkness in the Blood Phoenix's body. To the system, there is no difference between the power of darkness and the power of light. They were both just energy. Since they were both energy, the transformation of energy forms was not a problem at all. Multicolored light swept up, and the power of darkness in the blood phoenix's body was completely absorbed by the system. Then, the corrosion of darkness in the blood phoenix's body was washed away, and the blood phoenix's body was purified. After all of this was done, the transformed energy was poured into the blood phoenix's body. All right, everything is already over. With a wave of his hand, Liu released the blood phoenix again. It was just that it was no longer the blood phoenix. The multicolored feathers were as brilliant as the clouds, and the luxurious phoenix feathers stood tall, sacred and brilliant, incomparably resplendent. I am seeing the brilliant feathers on its body, seeing the sacred and luxurious brilliance all over its body, and no trace of the power of darkness could be felt on its body. The blood phoenix cried tears of joy. I have finally recovered my original appearance. I can finally go home. A cry resounded through the sky. The cheerful cry revealed a wild laughter of joy. I am no longer the blood phoenix. I, the fire phoenix king, have returned. Boom! With a flap of its wings, monstrous flames engulfed the entire blood phoenix mountain. The blood phoenix lineage that lived in the mountain were all turned into ashes in the raging flames. Back then, the foreign people took my true blood and refined it into their bodies, forming the so-called Blood Phoenix clan. All of them deserved to die. Within the monstrous flames, the Fire Phoenix King turned into a human form. A young man with multicolored hair landed in front of Liu. May I ask your distinguished self's name? I will never forget your grace of rebirth. I am a Grand Supreme. Liu smiled and nodded. The Fire Phoenix King has returned from the tribulation. Congratulations. Grand Supreme's great kindness. I am endlessly grateful. The Fire Phoenix King Liu bowed. Sky's sovereign, I have not seen my homeland for many years, and I am impatient. I ask for Sky's sovereign's forgiveness. Fire Phoenix will take my leave. With a flap of its wings, the Fire Phoenix King whistled through the air, its figure soaring into the sky. Let's go back from Red King's nest. With a wave of his hand, he shot out a talisman, informing the Fire Phoenix King of the location of the passage. Liu looked at the impatient figure of the Fire Phoenix King and shook his head with a smile. This person is actually true to his nature. All right, the matters here are basically over. Now is the season of harvest. Looking up at the horizon, on the distant land, a giant tree that reached the heavens and the earth stood tall, blooming with endless brilliance. Tens of thousands of Daos interweaved, Dao laws flowed, mysterious and unfathomable. That was the foreign world's tree. This is where my opportunity to break through to the king realm lies. Liu's face was full of smiles. With a step, he broke through the void and arrived under the world tree. He had spent so much effort, all for this moment. Breaking through to the Emperor realm was right in front of him. Chapter 705. World Tree Bearing All Daos. Sitting cross-legged under the world tree, Liu released his divine soul. Billions of divine souls rushed into the world tree together. Every divine soul was doing its best to comprehend the great Tao of heaven and earth carried by the world tree. In an instant, strange phenomena erupted around the world tree. When the primal chaos was first born, yin and yang appeared, and time and space flowed. Boom! A loud sound rang out. It was as if heaven and earth were being split apart, as if a world was being born here. Order was born, and time and space flowed. All things in the world also appeared. Black and yellow energy flowed, and the five elements separated, reinforcing and restraining each other. Order and matter interweaved, evolving all things in the world. However, the world that this side had evolved into was not complete. This was only a dead world without any life force. To give birth to life, first there must be earth. Black and yellow flowed, and a vast earth was born here. Water is the mother of life. Without water, life cannot be born. Tianshui light flowed, and rivers and lakes instantly appeared. Ice, snow, rain, and snow also evolved at the same time. There must be a suitable temperature. Lava surged under the ground. and the sun shone brightly in the sky. The sun, moon, and stars evolved. Naturally, there must be air. The wind whistled and flowed. The entire world seemed to have come alive. Time and space flowed. The sun and moon alternated, and the four seasons were reincarnated. All things in the world, all living beings in the world, everything is evolving. In this world that evolved, the first life was born. It gradually developed from single-celled organisms, and in the end, the entire world was alive. The sky was high, and the clouds were light, and birds were singing, and flowers were fragrant. Fish played in the water, birds soared in the sky, and beasts galloped. The wilderness was verdant, flowers bloomed and withered, and plants withered. Wind and clouds swirled in the sky. Wind, clouds, thunder, lightning, rain, and snow, everything was evolving. Even though it was just an evolved phenomenon, it was as if it was a real world. This is my Tao. Liu smiled happily. After accumulating for so many years, there's finally a breakthrough. Thousands of Tao laws are contained in my body. Creation follows my heart, and heaven and earth are formed. A long roar resounded through heaven and earth, and endless phenomena swept out. The world that was evolved instantly expanded, covering the sky and earth, enveloping the entire world. It was as if a new world was covered in this foreign world. Mountains and rivers, vast and boundless. Birds chirped and flowers bloomed. Ah, what's going on? At this moment, everyone in the foreign side cried out in alarm, because in everyone's eyes, the original world had disappeared. A brand new and unfamiliar world suddenly appeared before his eyes. Of course, in reality, this was only a vision and not a real world. This is an Empyrean becoming an emperor. The group of immortal kings who were clearing out the remnants and collecting the spoils of war all raised their heads to look in the direction of the world tree. Besides being shocked, they also sighed with emotion. The Empyrean has indeed taken that step. The Emperor realm really did exist. The road ahead hasn't been cut off. We still have hope. The immortal kings sighed with emotion. They hurriedly calmed down and comprehended the truth of the great Tao that Liu revealed when he advanced. This was an opportunity. For the immortal kings who were pursuing the Emperor's path, Liu's Emperor's path was like a lighthouse in the dark fog, allowing them to see the path ahead. The phenomenon was still evolving. Flowers bloomed and withered, and plants withered and flourished. Rise and fall, success and failure, the cycle of heaven and earth. It was as if time was accelerated countless times. In an instant, it was as if tens of millions of years had passed in this world that was produced. Heaven and earth do not exist forever. The sun and moon do not exist forever. All things in this world will eventually be destroyed. As the phenomena continuously evolved, time continuously accelerated. This world that was produced after countless years finally welcomed its final destruction. Heaven and earth were destroyed, all life perishing. Everything turned into nothingness. Only an eternal deathly stillness and deep darkness remained. All things are like dreams, illusions, bubbles, and shadows, like dew and lightning. This is how it should be viewed. Haha, as expected, this is the case. Everything is false. Under the world tree, Liu clapped his hands and laughed loudly. Everything was false. Only he alone was true. How long? A world-shaking great noise sounded. The irregular scenes in the sky vanished like smoke in thin air. Only a figure stood with his hands behind his back under the world tree. A speck of spiritual light shone, floating above Liu's head. At first, the spiritual light was like a spark, its radiance not obvious. In that instant, the radiance flourished like a sun in the sky. Boundless radiance spread outwards, engulfing heaven and earth, passing through the foreign realm, passing through space-time, passing through all obstructions, cleansing the world, surging into the heavens. At this moment, the foreign realm, 9 heavens, 10 earths, immortal domain, and even realm C, as well as the land of origin of darkness behind realm C. Every corner of this world was surrounded by this resplendent radiance. The radiance wasn't dazzling, but it was divine and glorious, towering above heaven and earth. This is what is going on. Ordinary people only felt like heaven and earth were brightly lit, but they didn't understand the reason behind it. However, the cultivators' feelings were different. What kind of cultivation is this? Under the cover of this radiance, all of the cultivators only felt like the entire world was collapsing. A tremendous, unimaginable pressure crushed down on their minds, almost making it hard for them to breathe. Becoming an emperor? Someone became an emperor? There is actually someone who became an emperor? On the other side of Realm C, in the land of origin of darkness, Gray Emperor, Grand Emperor, Feather Emperor, as well as World Eradication Elder, the four half-immortal emperors were so shocked they jumped up. How could someone become an emperor? We spent endless years, paid endless hardships, yet we never truly took that final step. How could he possibly become an emperor? How could he dare become an emperor? The four half-immortal emperors who were corroded by darkness all had sinister expressions, jealous to the extreme. None of us have truly become emperors. A younger generation actually dares walk in front of us? Preposterous. He still hasn't completed his transformation. We still have a chance. Go. Kill him. Seize his Tao fruit. For figures roared angrily as they rushed into the sky. Endless darkness swept out, shaking heaven and earth. How long? The four figures were like four dark hurricanes, engulfing heaven and earth, berserk beyond compare. They rushed into Realm C, stirring up endless destructive storms. In that instant, it was unknown just how many undying true immortals lost in Realm C. Even immortal king experts were blasted into a sky of bloody mist by this wave of berserk destructive storms. When the four half-immortal emperors rushed out with furious roars, in the depths of the land of origin of darkness, Darkness Immortal Emperor opened his eyes. Two streaks of light pierced through heaven and earth, shattering space and time, piercing through all obstructions, seeing that white-clothed figure under the world tree. What a lively body! Darkness Immortal Emperor only had half of his body left. It was pitch black, as if it was crystallized from the deepest darkness, erupting with endless black flames. A complete body, a powerful body, perfect for me to use. Darkness Immortal Emperor grinned strangely, his entire body erupting with pitch-black flames. Half of his body was instantly incinerated, turning into an extremely dense streak of black light. As if it was the amalgamation of all the darkness between heaven and earth, the extremely dense darkness actually produced a trace of resplendent radiance. The moment you complete your transformation, your everything will be mine. Chapter 706. When one broke through the king realm to become the arch, a shocking phenomenon shook the entire world. In the 9 heavens 10 earths immortal ancient ruins, Xiaohao, Little Stone, and company also saw the divine radiance that illuminated the world. It was more resplendent than the sun and moon, more resplendent than the starry sky. Unlike the others, Xiaohao, Little Stone, and the 3 mountain guardian divine beasts sensed a familiar aura from the radiance that filled the sky. Ancestral Master, Xiaohao exclaimed as he stood up abruptly. Could this be the supreme realm that Ancestral Master mentioned before? Ancestral Master has become the arch? That must be the case. Little Stone's face was filled with yearning. Unfortunately, we are too far away. We can't witness this scene with our own eyes. Ever since they left the black ship, the two swept through the immortal ancient mystic realm unhindered. They were invincible. Not only did they sweep away the entire immortal herbal garden, they even swept clean the final land of opportunity, the immortal crystal coffin. In a short period of time, the two broke through several realms, crossing true God, sacred sacrifice, and reaching the sky god realm. 2 16-year-old sky gods. It was unprecedented, unheard of since ancient times. Immortal Palace's successor gathered a group of subordinates and contacted Fire Cloud Palace. They attacked Xiaohao and Little Stone together. Then they were slaughtered like vegetables by the duo. Immortal Palace's backup plan in the Immortal Ancient Ruins was a successor who had entered the Immortal Ancient Ruins but never came out. With the absolute strength of a sky god, he charged over with an overflowing aura. Then, with a saber and sword, he was chopped to pieces. The two, who were invincible in the Immortal Ancient Ruins, were calming their hearts to consolidate their cultivation. At that moment, they saw a divine radiance that illuminated the world. Boom! At that moment, an unimaginably loud boom resounded between heaven and earth. It was as though space-time had collapsed and the world had been destroyed. Above the divine radiance that filled the sky, for pitch-black figures with vast auras that left one in despair shattered the endless void, collapsing thousands of worlds and annihilating the infinite starry sky. Is that an enemy? An enemy is attacking Ancestral Master? Damn it! Upon seeing this scene, the duo tightly gripped their swords and sabers as their hearts burned with rage. Unfortunately, our strength is too weak. He couldn't help at all. Ancestral Master, I can't help Ancestral Master. I hate it. The two raised their swords and sabers and roared angrily. Boom! Inside an abyss in the Immortal Ancient Ruins, an ancient five-colored altar was emitting a divine glow. The vast and mighty radiance was like a pillar that supported the heavens, shooting straight into the clouds. Vaguely, a cauldron made of the origin chi of all things and 9 kinds of immortal metal flashed in the light pillar. 2 stars flew out of the cauldron. It was as if 2 figures had crossed the river of time and were walking over. 2 vague figures appeared in front of Xiaohao and little Shirtu. This is... Seeing these 2 figures, Xiaohao and little Shirtu were so shocked that they cried out and were dumbfounded. When Xiaohao and little Stone cried out in alarm, everyone on the other side was crying out in alarm. When the mighty divine radiance swept through the endless space and illuminated the vast heavens, endless darkness blotted out the sky and covered the earth. For figures that seemed to be condensed from darkness tore through endless space and time, collapsing endless realms. Heaven destroying and earth overflowing vicious might engulf heaven and earth. Becoming an emperor? You don't have a chance. Amidst roars filled with endless jealousy and resentment, for palms condensed from darkness fiercely slapped out. It was as if they came from the other end of space and time, shattering the endless void, destroying endless realms. They smashed down fiercely towards the white-clothed figure under the world tree. Space and time collapsed. The void was destroyed. Under these 4 pitch-black, boundless giant palms, all things in this world turned into nothingness, everything returning to destruction. 4 half-immortal emperors from the land of origin. At the crucial moment of breaking through the king level into emperor level, he suffered the joint attack of 4 half-immortal emperors. Liu was extremely furious. Different from others breaking through to the Immortal King realm, Liu's advancement this time was not the kind of advancement that only took half a step into the Immortal Emperor realm. Instead, he planned to ascend to a new level in one go and complete the great leap from the Immortal King realm to the Immortal Emperor realm. This type of great leap was even more difficult than simply breaking through into the king level, and also more dangerous. Liu's own accumulations were already extremely deep. Moreover, his path, his source great Tao, the path of the origin of endless space and time, was even vaster than the emperor level. This gave him the foundation to break through the king level into emperor level, directly stepping onto a new step. However, at this crucial moment when he was about to complete the final transformation, about to break through the king level into emperor level, he instead faced the joint attack of 4 half-immortal emperors. At this type of crucial moment, it was like a large truck full of goods speeding along. If one dared to step on the brakes, the vehicle would definitely be destroyed and the people inside would die. That was why Liu couldn't stop at all. He could only continue to break through in one go, continue to advance. The Heavenly Venerable was attacked. Four figures that were pitch black like ink appeared and launched a sudden attack. The berserk, vicious might that collapsed endless space and time left the faces of the immortal kings in the foreign realm filled with horror. Emperor might. Those are four imperial emperors. Damn it. There are actually four imperial emperors attacking the heavenly venerable? Everyone was shocked and furious to the extreme, but there was nothing they could do. Under the emperor might, all living things were ants. Even if it was a celestial king, he was only a slightly stronger ant. They couldn't interfere at all. Even if they risked their lives and rushed up, they would be blasted into ashes by the aftershocks. It was completely meaningless. The Grand Empyrean handles matters by planning first before acting. Since he broke through the king level into emperor level in one go, he must have a foolproof plan. We don't need to worry. Willow Deity was the person who came into contact with Liu the most. All along, the Grand Empyrean had always been meticulous when doing things, making meticulous arrangements, as if he had already prepared everything in advance. Facing this kind of situation, the Grand Empyrean must have left behind a backup plan. If Liu knew what Willow Deity was thinking, he would definitely spit out a mouthful of old blood. Although I've always been acting cool, I am not as powerful as you think I am. In reality, the matter of the four half-immortal emperors joining forces to launch a sneak attack was something Liu really didn't expect. In the original timeline, when Heavenly Emperor Huang broke through the king level and became a half-immortal emperor, he didn't see any activity from these four either. Fortunately, after being the dark hand behind the scenes for a long time, his nature cautious, Liu wasn't completely unprepared. Four half-immortal emperors joining forces. They are indeed powerful beyond compare. Liu divided his mind into millions and millions of parts, only leaving behind a part to deal with the changes in the outside world. The rest of his mind was still immersed in the transformation from king level to emperor level. Half-immortal emperors aren't immortal emperors in the end. Your bit of strength is still not enough. He raised his hand and slapped out. Boundless radiance rushed into the sky. Void destruction. A palm slapped out. The endless void suddenly surged. Destruction. Annihilation. Even a void exploded. How long? The palm imprint and the four giant pitch-black palms fiercely smashed together, erupting with an unimaginable explosion. The sky collapsed. Everything was being destroyed. Everything was being destroyed. The stars in the sky instantly turned into nothingness. Countless realms shattered, time and space collapsing, heaven and earth becoming chaotic. As for the other side, it was already completely destroyed. This vast expanse of heaven and earth had already exploded into countless fragments, scattering all over the void. When an emperor battle began, all sides were destroyed. Chapter 707. Interesting. It's actually my power? Liu's move broke through the joint attack of the four half-immortal emperors. In the depths of the origin ground, Darkness Immortal Emperor, who turned into a streak of black light, was slightly stunned when he saw Liu's attack. Then he laughed loudly. Darkness Immortal Emperor naturally saw that Liu's move just now used his power. To be more precise, it was the power of the half of his body that he cut off back then. So, it was me who created you? Haha, this is really interesting. The Dark Immortal Emperor laughed out loud. Since your achievements came from me, it's only right that you give everything to me. The fruit is about to ripen. The black light that Darkness Immortal Emperor turned into instantly broke through the void, rushing into the endless nothingness. In the battlefield, under this attack, heaven and earth were destroyed, the void collapsed, everything was destroyed. Apart from the territory where Liu stood, the entire foreign realm was already gone. Fortunately, the great Tao of heaven and earth, the tens of thousands of Tao laws, had long been comprehended in his heart. Even if heaven and earth were destroyed, it wouldn't affect Liu's advancement. The world is gone. What's the point of you, a world tree, staying here? Just follow I. With a wave of his hand, the giant tree that reached into the heavens instantly shrunk, turning into a 3-foot small tree. Liu put it away with a wave of his hand. Cough, cough. Damn it. Why is he so strong? At this time, the 4 half-immortal emperors came back to their senses from that attack, just now. Blood spurted out crazily from all over their bodies, a tragic sight. Could it be that he has already become an emperor? How is this possible? No one can complete the transformation so quickly. He should only have the strength for one attack. If we continue to attack, he will undoubtedly die. Kill! The 4 half-immortal emperors roared in unison, attacking again. To deal with ordinary immortal kings, casually using a bit of the half-immortal emperor body's power is enough. However, to deal with 4 half-immortal emperors, this half-immortal emperor body's power can't withstand the consumption. I can only end this quickly. A trace of cold light flashed past Liu's eyes. Since you all want to die, how can I not help you? Void imprisonment, eternal prison. This was the power of the dark immortal emperor. The remnant soul and the remnant body worked together. Liu directly controlled the remnant body of the immortal emperor and used the abhijna of the darkness immortal emperor. Compared to drawing on the immortal emperor's power to drive other divine abilities, the immortal emperor's power was much stronger. This kind of darkness immortal emperor's own divine ability was more compatible, and its power was even more terrifying. Ka-ka-ka. Like being frozen by ice, the sound of something freezing could be heard in the void. Under this peerless ability, the supreme power of the immortal emperor was terrifying and unstoppable. The vast void instantly froze. The 4 quasi-immortal emperors were frozen in the void amidst the crystal-like light. Although the immortal emperor's remnant body has consumed a lot of energy, it's still very powerful. But it's all over. The 4 half-immortal emperors were frozen in the void by the eternal prison. Liu waved his hand and collected the 4 frozen quasi-immortal emperors. With the disaster eliminated, Liu had enough time to complete the final transformation. However, a sudden change occurred. Boom! An extremely dazzling black light broke through the void, like a black sun reflecting the endless time and space, sweeping through heaven and earth and shaking time and space. The extreme darkness actually gave birth to light, black light. This was the origin of all darkness and ominous, the beginning of all sin and evil. This was the darkness immortal emperor. When this black sun appeared in the endless void, in all the realms, darkness covered the light. The whole world was shrouded in deep darkness and terror. The phenomenon of Liu's promotion, the sacred light, was instantly expelled, leaving only a weak flame. It was like a bonfire in the dark night. Even though it was weak, it was still firmly and resolutely blooming light and heat, bringing the only light to this world that had fallen into darkness. Darkness immortal emperor. Liu frowned tightly. The appearance of this person was completely out of Liu's expectation. This half-crippled immortal emperor, who had fallen into darkness, was an extreme otaku who had not raised his eyelids for hundreds of millions of years. He was simply going to turn into a fossil. How could such a person appear again? The transformation is about to be completed. Only the last step is left. Very good. It's really great. Let me complete the last step. Everything that you have is mine. The darkness immortal emperor burst into laughter. Just a burst of laughter instantly shattered the endless space-time and destroyed countless realms. You want everything I have? Haha. I'm afraid you don't have such a big appetite. The most important thing now was to stall for time. Liu attacked without hesitation. He extracted the power in the immortal emperor's body and slapped at the darkness immortal emperor. Void banishment. This was a divine sense that could throw the enemy into the endless void and make the enemy lose himself in the void. At this time, this divine sense was the most suitable one to stall for time. You want to use my power against me? You're so naive. The dark immortal emperor sneered. A black sun flickered slightly, and Liu's void exile instantly collapsed and dissipated into thin air. Of course, it's not just that. How could Liu not know that void banishment was the power of the darkness immortal emperor? The only reason he used this divine sense was the power of space. I know it too. He formed a hand seal, the void banishment, which had just been dispersed by the darkness immortal emperor, and the extremely rich power of space at the immortal emperor's level instantly became violent. Disorderly teleportation gate. The chaotic and disorderly power of space suddenly exploded and turned into a disorderly teleportation gate that enveloped the black sun in the void. Very creative. Unfortunately, that power is still mine. The black sun burst out a black light. In an instant, the disorderly teleportation gate exploded and turned into nothingness. It's about time. I won't play with you anymore. Accept your fate. Everything you have is mine. The black light that filled the sky suddenly exploded, transforming into a huge palm condensed from black light. Then, the palm grabbed at Liu. This was the first time the darkness immortal emperor had attacked. Its power was unimaginably terrifying. When the palm grabbed out, the sky collapsed and the earth sank. Everything turned into nothingness. Freeze! Liu did not hesitate to use the fixed body art. Even though he might not be able to trap the darkness immortal emperor for a long time, just a little bit of time was enough. At this moment, Liu's power was in the midst of a transformation and could not be used. The power of the immortal emperor's remnant body was meaningless to the darkness immortal emperor. Liu directly dismembered the 4 half immortal emperors and put all their power into the fixed body art. Time flowed, and everything in the world returned to stillness. Just like the scene in the Kuan Peng's nest, the 4 half immortal emperor's power erupted instantly. The fixed body art had frozen the space-time of the chaotic ancient era. However, it still could not stop the darkness immortal emperor. Boom! The huge black sun burst out with endless radiance. The darkness immortal emperor had also used all his power. Break for me! The enormous palm of darkness that blotted out the sky and covered the earth suddenly struck down, destroying the universe, collapsing the world, and forcefully shattering this frozen space. At this moment, space-time was destroyed. The void had been shattered and turned into chaos, and time had been turned upside down. This attack had pierced through space-time. Space-time was turned upside down, and the void changed. Liu and the darkness immortal emperor's figures actually appeared in an unfamiliar battlefield. Here, the sound of killing shook the sky, and blood dyed the world red. Here, the mighty sound of the bell shook the ancient times. The thick cauldron crushed the world, and the whistling sword light tore through the sky. Heavenly Master! Liu heard a call of shock and surprise behind him. Chapter 708. Yi Fan, No Beginning, Zhou Yi, and Ruthless. Feeling the aura of this world, Liu's heart was filled with shock. This is time and space from the future? Boom! The gigantic black palm that blotted out the sky was still descending from above. The dark immortal emperor didn't have any scruples at all. He didn't care whether time was in chaos or not, and continued to attack without hesitation. Damn it! Liu's heart was raging with anger. The heaven-shaking sounds of battle behind him had already indicated that this was a tragic battle in the future. Li Fan, No Beginning, Ruthless, Zhou Yi, and the others were all fighting with all their might. They were all quasi-immortal emperors, but their enemies were also quasi-immortal emperors, and there were even more of them. Li Fan and the others were being besieged, and the battle was extremely tragic. Now, the Dark Immortal Emperor had suddenly charged into this battlefield. If he were to casually attack Yi Fan and the others, the impact would be unimaginable. There's only one last way. System, I hope you won't disappoint me. Looking at the huge palm of darkness that was about to slam down on him, Liu gritted his teeth and took out the rotten wooden chest and copper coffin from the resource store. What was inside was the remnant soul and body of the Dark Immortal Emperor. Sky Sovereign, I'm the only one left. I'm the only one left. Behind him, Ruthless was fighting with all his might as he roared at Liu. I'm the only one left. What do you mean? Liu was somewhat baffled. However, at this moment, the arrow had no choice but to be released. He couldn't afford to be distracted. Your things, I'll return them to you. With a wave of his hand, he threw the rotten wooden chest and the copper coffin towards the dark, immortal emperor. This was Li Yu's final attack. Was it a powerless struggle? My body, my soul, although I will use your body in the future. However, since you've already given it to me, I naturally have to take it back. Dark light swept out, and the rotten wooden chest and copper coffin suddenly shattered. The remnant's soul and body instantly merged into the black sun. You're finished. Liu raised his head to look at the black sun in the sky, and a strange smile appeared on his face. I'm finished? How funny. After retrieving my remnant's soul and body, I became even stronger. You're the one who's finished. The dark, immortal emperor sneered. Black light filled the sky, and a huge dark palm grabbed at Liu. In the eyes of an immortal emperor, apart from himself, everything else was an illusion. There was simply nothing that could stop this palm strike. However, there were always many unexpected things in this world. Stand down. Liu stood with his hands clasped behind his back. He didn't pay any attention to the giant black palm that was slamming down on him. He only shouted, as if a master was ordering a servant to retreat. How dare you? Yuha? Immortal Emperor of Darkness was shocked to find that he had involuntarily and obediently retreated without any resistance. The black light that filled the sky dissipated, the pitch-black giant palm dissipated, and everything vanished into thin air. Authority retracted, energy retracted, target destroyed. Following Liu's inexplicable words, the mighty dark immortal Emperor of Darkness and the overwhelming dark sun instantly collapsed and shrank. Finally, they turned into nothingness and disappeared completely. However, in Liu's resource warehouse, a specimen called the Dark Immortal Emperor had appeared. This was Liu's final counterattack plan. In the remnant soul of the Dark Immortal Emperor, Liu had installed a system. It was a basic system that didn't have any functions. There were only basic instructions and no application functions. When the Dark Immortal Emperor of Darkness fused with his remnant soul and body, their souls were naturally bound by the system. In this way, the Dark Immortal Emperor of Darkness became a system host. In front of Liu, the system host was just a piece of cake. No matter how powerful it was just a piece of cake. I finally killed him. Liu let out a long sigh. Although this black hand had been set up long ago. However, Liu wasn't sure if the system would work after fusing with the remnant soul of the Dark Immortal Emperor of Darkness. At the last moment, there was no other way. He could only take the risk. Once the Dark Immortal Emperor of Darkness was destroyed, there would be no more obstacles on the road to advancement. Boom! The sky was filled with light and swept across the world. The mighty divine light illuminated the entire world and the endless void. In search of the great Tao, my heart will never slacken. Once I see through the principles of heaven and man, my body transcends heaven and earth. The long chant resounded through the clouds, and the divine light swept across the world. At this moment, the world in front of Li Yu was completely different. Sure enough, everything is illusory. In Li Yu's eyes, everything in the world was intertwined with order and matter. Everything was the rules of the great Tao. Everything is illusory, only I am true. Everything born between heaven and earth was nurtured by heaven and earth. It was the order of the great Tao and the rules of heaven and earth. It was as if the entire world had turned into a virtual game. The beautiful scenes and the intense battles were all imaginary. Everything was evolved by the rules. I am the only one left. I see. As far as the eye could see, other than himself, everything was formed by the rules of heaven and earth. At this moment, Liu also knew what vicious meant by, I am the only one left. This was the key to becoming an emperor. The message that Vicious conveyed was the key to becoming an emperor. However, this message was naturally understood by those who understood it. Those who didn't understand would not understand it at all. When he looked up and saw the battlefield in front of him, the scene in his eyes was different. Cultivation, cultivation, cultivation. It is indeed training the false to become the real. In Liu's eyes, although these cultivators had different cultivation levels, in essence, other than the rules of heaven and earth, they all more or less had a part of their reality. The future is indeed tragic. This piece of heaven and earth had already been beaten to a pulp. Then let's end all of this. With a wave of his hand, a mighty divine light swept out. It covered the sky and the earth, cleansing the entire void and sweeping the entire world. Under this light, all the invaders, all the enemies, all the invaders, all fell without a sound. This was an attack that came from the source. This was the great Tao that Liu had comprehended after becoming an emperor. Just like removing a virus, as if it was a computer formatting, Liu directly annihilated the great Tao laws in the bodies of these invaders. After the collapse of order, even the foundation of existence was gone. It was just like a game. After destroying the character's data, the character would naturally be gone. All right, why does this path of mine look more and more like a GM playing a game? Liu couldn't help but laugh. Sky Sovereign, you're finally here. With all the enemies gone, Fan and the others heaved a sigh of relief and happily welcomed him. Disciple Zhou Yi pays his respects to the ancestral master. Zhou Yi, who had become a quasi-immortal emperor, bowed and kowtowed to Li Yu with an excited face. The return of the Sky Sovereign, I am overjoyed. This battle, we will definitely win. Li Fan Xian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and bowed to Li Yu with a smile. Unfortunately, I did not really come back. I fought with the immortal Emperor of Darkness in ancient chaos and broke through time and space. That's why I mistakenly came here, but I can't stay for long. Li Yu helplessly shook his head. I'm afraid you'll have to rely on yourself for this battle. Huh, not afraid. If the Sky's Sovereign can come now, then he will naturally be able to come back in the future. Everyone laughed out loud. They were not depressed, but rather overjoyed. In fact, that was indeed the case. Since Liu knew what would happen in the future, he would naturally make some preparations in the past. Chapter 709. What I thought before was indeed correct. After chatting with everyone for a while, Liu also knew what exactly happened in this space-time in the future. In reality, this was the world above high heavens that had descended. High heavens was boundlessly terrifying. A drop of blood crippled Darkness' immortal emperor, forcing him to fall into darkness and become the source of evil. Right now, this was merely the initial stage. Existences that were too terrifying still couldn't descend. However, half-immortal emperors could already come. From the signs of this world development, in the future, this world might very well become one with the world above high heavens, merging into one world. That would be a peerless terror. The fusion of planes, this was the general trend of heaven and earth. Even with Liu's current cultivation, he could at most set up some obstacles, but he couldn't stop this kind of world's evolution. Heavenly Emperor Huang ruled over eternity, severed space-time, severed karma. He could only delay this upheaval by a few epochs. Liu sighed inwardly, even though he had already wiped out ancient chaos's source of darkness. However, the path of Heavenly Emperor Huang ruling over eternity, fighting above high heavens, would still appear. Fortunately, the environment they're growing in now. Thinking of this, Liu's heart tightened. He fought against 4 half-immortal emperors, and then fought against Darkness' immortal emperor, fighting until the heavens collapsed and the earth split, even piercing through space-time. Ancient chaos's world. How would it shatter into? Cough, cough. Little Stone and Xiaohao crawled out from the ruins, their faces covered in dust. Looking at the shattered world in front of them, they already didn't know what to think. Immortal ancient ruins. All right, even the 9 heavens 10 earths had shattered into countless pieces. Immortal domain was split into pieces. Who knew where it was swept into the void? Immortal ancient ruins was already just a meteor. Do you believe it? 2 phantoms stood behind the 2 of them. The lingering radiance made the 2 figures extremely blurry, their faces unable to be seen clearly. However, these 2 figures' auras were extremely vast. In the great destruction of heaven and earth just now, if not for the protection of these two phantoms, the two of them might have suffered quite a bit. You guys are us? This is too inconceivable, right? Little Stone frowned at the phantoms behind him, shaking his head. To be precise, we are only a part of it. It was just a drop of blood from the future. Your current strength is still far from enough. Don't you want to find the patriarch? Don't you want to know how the patriarch is doing? The voice of the phantom was very calm, but his words shocked the two of them. Yes, such a terrifying battle, such a terrifying enemy. Ancestral Master, how is it? Xiao Hao raised his head, his face full of determination. Come on, no matter what, I have to find the patriarch. I must find the patriarch. Very good. The illusory figure shattered and turned into a drop of golden blood that was like a scorching sun. It instantly rushed into Xiao Hao's body. Boom! Divine splendor shot up into the sky, and an enormous might shook the heavens and earth. An imperial emperor had awakened. Huang, it's your turn. Xiao Hao looked at Little Stone and nodded. This is who I am. This is who we are. All right. Another drop of brilliant blood appeared and fell into Little Stone's body. An earth-shattering divine might shook the endless space-time. Over there is a scene of space and time shattering. It was very likely that the patriarch had penetrated through time and space and gone to another time. Let's hurry over. The two of them broke through the air and instantly arrived at the place where time and space had been destroyed. Here, they saw a world from the other side of time and also sensed Liu's aura. The patriarch is over there. Let's go. His figure whistled and instantly rushed into the space-time hole, arriving at another space-time. Boom! Two incomparably brilliant figures pierced through time and space, arriving at the future world. Vast and mighty radiance engulfed the world, like two scorching suns hanging high in the sky. This aura, the sudden appearance of these two figures caused Liu to be startled. The auras of these two people. It was actually so familiar. Heavenly Emperor Huang. Heavenly Emperor Hao. It's them. They're here too. Seeing these two figures, Fan and the others cried out in surprise. Ancestral Master. Two resplendent figures instantly appeared in front of Liu. They happily bowed towards Liu. Greetings, Ancestral Master. The two of you. Liu glanced at Xiao Hao and Little Rock and discovered the drop of brilliant, sacred, and glorious blood in their bodies. So that's how it is. He transformed himself. He transformed into the ancient times. A drop of blood from the future? In the future, all of you will become emperors. Very good. Reaching out his hand to float the two of them, Liu smiled and nodded. That's right. With such achievements in the future, Ancestral Master is extremely gratified. So, the Grand Empyrean was actually the ancestor of Heavenly Emperor Huang and Heavenly Emperor Hao. The Grand Empyrean is indeed a senior expert with divine might. Heavenly Emperor Huang and Heavenly Emperor Hao were both disciples of the Empyrean. Zhou Yi, this quasi-mortal emperor, was also a disciple of the Empyrean. According to the legends, during the chaotic ancient era, there were countless experts under the Empyrean. The Grand Empyrean was indeed a senior expert. They are just an incarnation formed from a drop of blood. They can't stay in this space-time for long either. We have to go back. Liu glanced at Yi Fan and the others. Everyone, let's work together. One day, this world will enjoy eternal peace. We will do our best. Everyone cupped their fists solemnly. I will take my leave now. After bidding farewell to everyone, Liu, Xiao Hao, and Little Rock passed through the space-time hole and returned to the chaotic ancient era. This world, has it been beaten to such a state? In front of him was a scene of devastation, and the entire world was shattered. There was no longer a complete great world. Only countless fragments floated in the air. Its eyes' fault for causing such a disaster. Liu sighed and shook his head. He had never thought that this world would end up like this. 4 quasi-mortal emperors, plus the darkness immortal emperor. After a round of battle, everything was destroyed. Although he said that, Liu actually didn't feel any guilt in his heart. With 4 quasi-immortal emperors attacking him and the darkness immortal emperor attacking him, it was impossible for him not to resist, right? Even if I shatter the heavens and earth, I can't blame right? However, he still had to remedy the situation. Then let's reshape the world. Yin and yang interweaved, and heaven and earth appeared. Everything in the world was enveloped in this radiance. The shattered earth turned into stars. Heaven and earth were reshaped here. The starry sky was vast, and the stars in the sky shone with endless brilliance, turning into a vast universe. After gathering the fragments of the immortal domain, it once again transformed into an immortal domain. However, Liu did not care about the broken laws of the immortal domain. If he repaired the immortal domain now, then how could he repair the immortal domain in the future? Of course, he had to leave it for his future to mend. Follow me. I'll take you to see the biggest crisis in this world. Liu turned around and brought Xiao Hao and the other 2 to the source of the darkness that was also destroyed. There, the terrifying truth of the heavens would be revealed. Chapter 710. Heavenly Sovereign, you've returned. At this time, streak after streak of flowing light tore through the sky, landing at Liu's side. The group of immortal kings who attacked the other side, even though they were all covered in grime right now in sorry states, they were still relatively intact, not dying in the great changes just now. These 2, Xiao Hao and Little Stone, they became emperors? When they saw Xiao Hao and Little Stone standing at Liu's side, the group of immortal kings were stupefied. This was becoming emperors? Those 2 little fellas both became emperors? How is this possible? We pay our respects to seniors. Xiao Hao and Little Stone hurriedly bowed respectfully towards everyone. They didn't become emperors. Liu explained to everyone, when they become emperors in the future, they split off a drop of blood, tracing back the flow of time. Right now, it is merely the divine might produced by a drop of blood. In the future, they both became emperors? Everyone was incredibly shocked. Becoming an emperor wasn't that simple of a matter. The 2 little fellas actually both became emperors? Turns out Heavenly Sovereign already knew about all of this. Willow Deity thought back to when they first met. Liu Xing, Little Stone is the opportunity to quell the darkness. Feeling incomparable admiration towards Liu's great divine ability that could see through the past and future. This great change caught us off guard. Fortunately, no one suffered any injuries. Only this world. I sigh. Liu gave everyone a look, releasing a long sigh helplessly. Even though I already killed 4 half-immortal emperors and darkness immortal emperor, this world is already shattered. However, the heavens and earth are shattered, and everything is in ruins. Heavenly Sovereign, there is no need to blame yourself. The group of immortal kings hurriedly advised, Heavenly Sovereign has quelled the darkness, established unmatched achievements. Even if there are some losses right now, in the future, this world will forever enjoy peace. Heavenly Sovereign's merit is immeasurable. Forever enjoy peace? Liu shook his head with a sigh. If you want peace, it is still far too early. Heavenly Sovereign's words. When they heard Liu's words, everyone's minds tightened. Heavenly Sovereigns already became emperors. Could it be that there was still something even Heavenly Sovereigns couldn't resolve? You all will know once you come with me. Not long after, they arrived at the origin of darkness. This was a ruined and deathly still land. Even though Liu had cleaned up the dark and ominous energy that had accumulated over millions of years when he rebuilt the world, this land still exuded an endless gloominess. There was a huge black stone mountain in front of them, and there was a huge throne at the top of the mountain. For hundreds of millions of years, the Darkness Immortal Emperor had been sleeping on this throne, emitting a dark aura that corroded the entire world. We always thought that the source of the darkness was the Darkness Immortal Emperor. Actually, the darkness comes from another source. Liu stepped onto the mountain peak and arrived before the throne. With a wave of his hand, A pitch-black hole appeared in the void above the throne. This was a hole that had been torn open in the void. Dark clouds rolled in the cave, and endless dark energy rushed out, making people shudder. That is, everyone's expression changed drastically. So, the source of all the darkness came from this void hole. What's behind this cave? Is it because the power of darkness came from behind the cave? Wrong. The truth is much crueler than you think. With a point of his finger, a radiant light washed away the darkness that filled the cave, revealing the true appearance of the empty cave. It was a circular hole, as if something had pierced through the void, leaving behind a circular hole. There were still some bloodstains at the edge of the circular hole. Those were pitch-black bloodstains. The bloodstains contained endless darkness, as if it was the source of all darkness. Just feeling this aura made everyone tremble, as if there was a fear that came from the soul. This is just a drop of blood. Liu looked at everyone with a grave expression. A drop of black blood from another world pierced through the void and fell into the body of the darkness immortal emperor, causing the strongest person in this world to fall into darkness and become the source of evil. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. An immortal emperor, the most powerful existence in this world, was corrupted by a drop of black blood from another world and became the source of evil. Even an immortal emperor could not withstand a drop of blood. The truth of the darkness was so cruel. It was so despairing. Was there still a future for this world? Was there still hope? On the other side of the cave is a boundless, unimaginably horrifying world. That place is known as above the heavens. Liu stretched out his hand, and a radiant light swept up, illuminating the world behind the cave. That place was silent. There was a river of blood. The world was scarlet red. Endless blood flowed on the ground, like a river, like a lake, like an ocean. That was a sea of blood. An ancient stone tablet stood in the sea of blood, and a line of words was engraved on it. Above the heavens, eternity exists. Reincarnation is difficult to overturn, a supreme place. This scene was too terrifying. That is above the heavens, the origin of all darkness and ominous. That place is filled with endless danger. Liu stretched out his hand and pressed on the void hole, and a mighty radiant light swept up. The remaining bloodstains of the cave were annihilated and dissipated, erasing the remaining darkness and ominous. Everyone, with I's strength, I can only temporarily seal this cave. If we want to solve the dark calamity once and for all, unless we have enough strength to kill our way into that world and wipe out all the darkness. Liu looked at everyone with a serious expression, and his gaze lingered on Heavenly, Dar Chuang, and Xiaohao for a while. The future will depend on everyone's efforts. We will do our best. Everyone bowed and accepted the order. Only by becoming an emperor can we have the power to conquer above the heavens. Liu waved his hand, and a scene of intertwining Tao laws appeared in front of everyone. Everyone's path to becoming an emperor is different. However, the essence of an immortal emperor is the same. All things are void. Only I am true. Everything in the world is intertwined with Tao laws and evolved from order. Only by finding your own truth can you become an immortal emperor. With a wave of his hand, the scene of intertwining Tao laws dissipated. This is I's Emperor's path. You can't watch it for long. Otherwise, I's path will interfere and affect you. After understanding the essence of an immortal emperor, you can find your own path. Liu looked up at the hole in the void and smiled. I want to go above the heavens. Firstly, I want to seal this hole. Secondly, I want to find out the situation above the heavens. After waving at everyone, Liu stepped into the void. Xiaohao and Little Stone have a limitless future. Their current strength is still low, so take care of them. I will take my leave first. I look forward to fighting side by side with all of you in the heavens. With a step, Liu instantly passed through the hole and went to the world above the heavens. Light flowed on the hole in the void, and the hole instantly closed, leaving only a black and white Taiji mark. Ancestral Master, Heavenly Venerable. Everyone was both excited and ashamed. The heavenly venerable had sacrificed so much for this world, but they couldn't help at all. How hateful! We must become emperors. Everyone sighed and made up their minds to follow in the footsteps of the heavenly venerable. After that, everyone left one after another, leaving the origin ground. A moment later, Liu returned. Chapter 711. This seal should be enough for now. Interweaving black and white light closed the hole in the void. Once Xiaohao and Stone ascended to a mortal emperor, they would be able to pass through the seal and enter the world above high heaven. After passing through the seal, Liu returned to this world. There is still some loose ends to be dealt with here. I can't just leave like this. He looked up, his gaze piercing through time and space to see a star. This star was a star formed in the land of Xin province after the destruction of heaven and earth. Dragon's son Baxia lay on the ground with the Supreme Hall on his back. Beside Dragon's son Baxia, there were 9 dragons pulling a coffin. Immortal Jin Kai, formed from the rainbow immortal metal, was guiding Stone Village's people out of the coffin. When Jin Kai took Stone Village out of the coffin and placed it back on the ground, Stone Village returned to its original state. Baxia, Jin Kai, I wish to go on a long journey. Are you willing to come along? At this time, Liu's voice sounded in their ears. Ancestral Master, you wish to go on a long journey? This disciple will personally attend to you. Baxia and Jin Kai agreed without hesitation. Very well. A formless energy swept past, and Dragon's son Baxia and Jin Kai instantly disappeared. Xiaohao and the others took the headless immortal in the ruins. We naturally have to take it back as well. With a wave of his hand, the immortal's body that Xiaohao had kept in the Supreme Hall instantly disappeared. Liu had put it away. Xiaohao also took the celestial god trees in the ruins. We have 4 now, and can merge them into a celestial immortal tree. One can become an immortal after eating 1 fruit. After we bring it back and have Tung Qing plant it, we'll be able to mass-produce immortals in the future. In the blink of an eye, the 3 celestial god trees in Xiaohao's Supreme Hall returned to Liu's hands. I have no use for the white pagoda I got from the Golden Lion King. I'll just return it to them. Liu didn't pay any more attention to Lil Pagoda after sending it into Xiaohao's Supreme Hall. Xiaohao naturally knew that Liu was collecting these things. Since the Patriarch wanted to conquer the high heavens, he naturally needed all kinds of resources in case of an unexpected event. Xiaohao only felt that Patriarch took too little and did not care about what Liu took. Now that I've taken 1 Origin Ancient artifact, I can't let go of the other one. After obtaining an Origin Ancient artifact from the other side, Liu also planned to obtain the Origin Ancient artifact buried in the Burial Land's void. His gaze swept across the heaven and earth, penetrating the 9 underworlds. In an instant, he found the Origin Ancient artifact in the void. Reaching out, he tore through the endless void and grabbed the Origin Ancient artifact. It's basically done. And this guy, Liu suddenly discovered that the so-called first spiritual root was still stored in the resource vault. This was one of the 6 doppelgangers of the fake medicine seller. In the beginning, Liu had planned to get this guy to be his hired thug. Later, when there were more hired thugs, he did not care about this and actually forgot about him. Well, this time, even the world was shattered. I hope you're still alive. With a wave of his hand, Liu threw the so-called first spiritual root into the void and threw it into this world. He did not bother to pay attention to it. What should be taken care of is done. It's time to go back. A bit of light flashed, and Liu's figure instantly disappeared. He returned to the later celestial domain. Liu returned to the ancient chaos era through the merchant city stronghold set up in the later celestial domain. To return to the origin world, he had to take care of things here. The merchant city stronghold was refined from Burial Sky Island and 9 dragons pulling coffin. At this moment, amidst the dragon roars, Liu's figure appeared in the merchant city's stronghold. Heavenly Venerable, you seem a bit different. Wang Shu, the woman transformed from the Jade Pool's divine embryo, saw Liu suddenly appear, and her eyes widened. After not seeing him for a while, the Heavenly Venerable's strength seemed to be even more unfathomable. Liu traveled through time and returned to the ancient chaos era. Now that he had returned, in Wang Shu's opinion, only a moment had passed. Wang Shu, I want to go on a long journey. Are you willing to accompany me? Wang Shu, who was transformed from the Guanghan White Jade, was the same as Jin Kai, who was transformed from the Rainbow Immortal Gold. They both had extraordinary potential. Since he was going to return to the origin world, it was not bad to bring a few people who were worth training back. Heavenly Venerable wants to go on a long journey? Wang Shu will naturally follow you. Wang Shu agreed without hesitation. Good, then let's go. With a wave of his hand, Liu put Wang Shu away. A stream of light flashed, and instantly, he disappeared and returned to the origin world. The merchant city's space was still the same. However, everyone who had gone out to train had returned. Greetings, Lord. Kai En Xialing led everyone to kowtow to Liu. Rise. Liu glanced at everyone and found that everyone's cultivation had improved greatly. Kai and Xialing were already in the true immortal realm. The divine beasts under him, the golden crow, jade rabbit, fire phoenix, ice phoenix, and 1,000 true dragons, most of them had the strength of a quasi-emperor. Not bad. You have all improved greatly during this training. I'm very satisfied. Liu smiled and nodded. This time, I have brought a few companions with me. You all can get to know each other. He waved his hand and summoned Jin Kai, Wang Shu, and Baxia. This is Jin Kai, Wang Shu, and Baxia. You all can get to know each other. Liu nodded to everyone. Kai, help Jin Kai and the others settle down. The rest of you can leave. Yes, we will take our leave. After everyone left, Liu also had to deal with the harvest of this trip. The harvest this time was huge. Not to mention the increase in his cultivation, just the harvest of some resources was very terrifying. Let's go plant trees first. He got up and went to the garden of the Immortal Mansion. Tung Qing, this tired fellow, was still in her mysterious sky, fairy vine body, and was too lazy to transform. It was just that her green vine had almost wrapped around the entire Immortal Mansion. Tung Qing, get up and plant trees. Since she wanted to be a gardener, Liu naturally had to fulfill her wish. A large pile of divine items was released by Liu. Spiritual light shone, immortal clouds lingered, and the entire Immortal Mansion garden was filled with a beautiful scenery. Ah, Your Majesty, you are back. Tung Qing yawned and stretched out her vines, entangling the divine items released by Liu. Wow, what powerful spiritual qi. These divine items are very extraordinary. The immortal peach herb, the immortal black tortoise herb, the enlightenment ancient tea tree, the ginseng fruit tree, the immortal tree formed by the 4 deity trees, and the world tree. Each of them was a rare spiritual root of heaven and earth. Your Majesty, I'm going to plant flowers. Tung Qing cheered and began to get busy with the spiritual roots. Looks like you really like being a gardener. Liu smiled and let Tung Qing plant flowers. He turned and left the Immortal Mansion garden. Boom! Just as he turned around, a loud noise came from the garden of the Immortal Mansion. A giant tree soared into the sky and went straight into the clouds. In an instant, roots pierced through the ground and connected the 9 floating islands together. Endless light shone, and the great Tao resonated. The giant tree merged with the entire space. The world tree has merged into the shop space. Not bad. As the space grows, the world tree will also continue to grow. Liu nodded with a smile as he looked at the brilliant world tree. This world will only become stronger and stronger in the future. Other than these spiritual roots, Liu's other gains were even more shocking. Chapter 712. Emperor Weapon. Immortal Equipment. Immortal King Weapon. Quasi-Immortal Emperor Divine Weapon. Immortal Emperor Weapon. Liu came to the Immortal Mansion's warehouse and released the countless divine weapons he had obtained this time. The entire arsenal shone brightly with immortal light, as if a starry sky had appeared in the armory. In the era of Yi Fan, Liu swept through the life-forbidden zone and caught all the ancient emperors in one fell swoop. Other than the few Emperor weapons that he had used up, there were still nearly 30 Emperor weapons. There were even more immortal artifacts. In the era of Yi Fan, he had killed the immortal Emperor, killed the Azure Phoenix Immortal Venerable, and obtained the Undying Heavenly Saber and the Azure Phoenix Immortal Sword. In addition to the Desolate Tower, the Nether Artifact Treasure Wheel, and the Kunlun Immortal Bell. After returning to Ancient Chaos, he swept through the 9 secret vaults of the Red King and obtained over 100 true immortal artifacts. Then there was the Immortal King weapon. Other than the Endless Bell of the Immortal King, there were a total of 30 Immortal Kings. After all, they all had Immortal King weapons. Then there were the 4 Quasi-Emperors. Each of them had a Quasi-Immortal Emperor Divine weapon and 2 Origin Ancient artifacts. As for the Immortal Emperor's weapon, the Dark Immortal Emperor's Daluo Sword Embryo had already been given to Little Stone. Other than the ancient bronze coffin that contained the Immortal Emperor's body that Liu had taken back, there was nothing else. There are quite a few good things. With a wave of his hand, he erased the original refining imprints of the divine weapons and sealed them in the Immortal Mansion's armory. This time, my direct subordinates can all exchange for a divine weapon. Although these divine weapons were all forged by others, they might not be completely compatible. However, as long as Liu opened the Immortal Mansion's artifact forging pavilion, they would be able to refine these things and make them completely compatible with themselves. I have to change my equipment as well. Other than the Heaven-Splitting Sword and the Kunlun Immortal Bell, most of his equipment were Emperor weapons. It was completely inconsistent with Li Yu's current Immortal Emperor realm. If he didn't equip himself with a few Immortal Emperor artifacts, he would be letting himself down. What is an Immortal Emperor artifact? Actually, it's very simple. At Li Yu's level, he had already seen through the essence of things. Everything was order, everything was rules. The so-called Immortal Emperor's weapon was actually an item that contained the Immortal Emperor's law. Take a simple example. The Dragon Blade was a divine weapon, and a novice wooden sword was trash. This was common knowledge. Then, what if he gave a novice wooden sword a stronger attribute than the dragon-slaying saber? This was order, this was law. Turning something rotten into something magical, that's it. Of course, not just any material could bear the weight of an Immortal Emperor's law. Unless it was a one-time consumable, the material was still important. The quality of the equipment I'm wearing is actually very strong. After 2 refinements, the quality of Li Yu's equipment was already extraordinary. There was no problem for it to contain Immortal Emperor laws. Then let's reforge it. Xiaoqun stretched out his hand, and light filled the air. Great Tao laws spread out, and the equipment on his body underwent a tremendous change. The golden crown, the white robe, the jade belt, the leather boots, and even the sky splitter sword and the Kunlun Immortal Bell hanging at his waist were all undergoing a fundamental transformation. Removing impurities, purifying the essence, penetrating the Tao laws, everything was being reshaped, everything was being sublimated. A moment later, the light faded away, and the equipment was reforged. The golden crown was no longer a golden crown, but a jade color. It was as if it was carved out of white jade, and there was no flickering light. It was as if it was an ordinary white jade crown in the mortal world. The white robe was simple and unadorned, as if it had turned into a cotton fabric. It was even more ordinary. The jade belt and leather boots had also become inconspicuous. From top to bottom, it was as if it was just an ordinary mortal robe. There was nothing magical about it at all. However, in essence, this robe was an Immortal Emperor's weapon. It was engraved with Li Yu's own great Tao laws and possessed the peerless divine might of an Immortal Emperor's weapon. The Sky Splitter Sword and the Kunlun Immortal Bell had also completed their reforging. They had completely washed away the original law of the divine ability and engraved Li Yu's own great Tao laws into it. They had truly become an Immortal Emperor divine weapon that was incomparably compatible with Li Yu. So it's time to change its name. The Sky Splitter Sword, originally, all the power in it came from the Lord of Heaven Splitter. At this moment, after the reforging, the Sky Splitter Sword no longer had the shadow of the Sky Splitter Sword. Now, the Sky Splitter Sword was engraved with Li Yu's Xianwang Great Tao. When the sword slashed out, it contained the power of the five elements: magnetism, annihilation, divine light, that could destroy all things, all matter in the world, as long as it was within Li Yu's own Great Tao origin. As long as it was a matter that Li Yu understood, it would be destroyed by the sword. This sword will be called the Xianhuang sword from now on. He hung the newly forged Xianhuang sword on his waist and waved his hand to take down the reforged Kunlun immortal bell. At this moment, all the great Tao laws of the Kunlun immortal bell originated from Li Yu himself. On the immortal bell, Li Yu had engraved the eye, the unique and righteous Tao of the sovereign. This represented Li Yu's ultimate destructive and offensive power. The Kunlun immortal bell will be called the Emperor Yu bell from now on. After putting away the Emperor Yu bell, Li Yu found that there was still one thing missing. The Tao of the Order of the Yin and Yang Qi also needs a supreme treasure to carry it. Then let's refine another one. He waved his hand and took out a world stone from the resource warehouse. This was the world stone that was as huge as a mountain. This thing contained the great Tao laws of a world and was suitable to carry the Tao of order. With a wave of his hand, endless radiance circulated and Tao laws intertwined. The world stone was instantly melted and reshaped into a large seal. This large seal carried all the Tao and carried all the Tao laws of Li Yu's own Tao of order. This seal is called the Heavenly Worthy Seal. The large seal instantly shrank into a square of about half an inch. It looked like a square jade pendant and was tied to his waist with a button. After refining a set of equipment, Li Yu turned and left the armory. Apart from these weapons and equipment, the biggest harvest this time is indeed countless mystic arts, divine abilities, and treasure arts. After glancing around the immortal mansion, Li Yu couldn't help but laugh. The scripture pavilion in the immortal mansion hasn't been used much. It's been covered in dust for a long time. It's time to fill it up. He walked towards the scripture pavilion and pushed open the door. There were rows of towering bookshelves inside, but there was not a single book on them. It's my fault. Li Yu smiled and shook his head. Some of the alchemy and equipment refining scrolls were placed in the alchemy pavilion and the pill hall. The other cultivation scrolls were basically not organized. I've gained a lot in these few worlds. All kinds of cultivation scrolls, knowledge are already as vast as the sea. It's suitable to open the scripture pavilion. He waved his hand and gave an order to the system in his mind. System, sort all the cultivation scrolls, knowledge in the resource warehouse and store them in the scripture pavilion. With an order, the sky was filled with radiance. Countless jade scrolls, bamboo scrolls, books, and scrolls were all placed on the bookshelves. In a moment, the entire scripture pavilion was divided into different categories. It was as vast as the sea, especially the harvest this time. It was simply immeasurable. How vast was the knowledge of the group of immortal kings that Li Yu took into the resource warehouse? Not to mention the accumulation of the 4 half-immortal emperors for countless years. In addition, all the divine abilities and secret skills that the Darkness Immortal Emperor had mastered since ancient times were as numerous as the stars in the sky. The 3 strongest sword arts, the 1st and 9th killing formations, all kinds of heavenly arts, all kinds of treasure arts, countless. Unknowingly, I've gained so many things. Seeing this scene, Li Yu felt a sense of accomplishment in his heart. He started from scratch and plundered all the way. Now, he finally looked a little like a nouveau riche. Chapter 713. Right now, it's a group of great emperors, true immortals, and immortal kings. Great emperors, true immortals, and immortal kings were all collected in the resource warehouse. Li planned to make use of these people. These people are going to become my subordinates, hired thugs. Whether it was the ancient emperor, true immortal, or immortal king, they could all enrich Li Yu's subordinates. However, these people had to be remodeled. The 30 emperors of the Fan era were all top-notch figures who could suppress the world, and were all suitable to be hired thugs. As long as each of them replenishes a portion of the longevity substance, they will be able to live for tens of millions of years. It is already enough. Other than the few great emperors who stayed in the immortal domain to guard the stronghold of the Shang city, the other great emperors who were brought back were a group of suitable thugs after their bodies and souls were reconstructed. System: load the longevity substance, reconstruct the body and soul of the ancient emperor, and all of them become immortal court officers. With the identity of an immortal court officer, he reconstructed the bodies and souls of the ancient emperors, turning them into junior officers of the various troops under Li Yu's command. After dealing with the great emperor, the next step was the true immortal. Of the 80 dark immortal generals, other than those that had been consumed along the way, there were still 70 or so left. In the immortal ancient ruins, Xiaohao had also taken in more than 100 headless true immortals. Together with the heads sealed in the cauldron of the black ship, he had gathered more than 100 heads. Adding the two sides together, there were exactly 180 true immortals. The dark immortal general would expel the corrosion of the darkness and reconstruct his soul. After repairing the bodies of the headless true immortals, he then used the soul power of the 4 quasi-mortal emperors to reconstruct the headless true immortal souls. After some work, the 180 true immortal level generals of the immortal court were completed. The rest are the immortal king level army commanders. The 30 immortal kings of the other side, in addition to the body of the Vajra king, the Golden Lion king, the Hunyuan king, the emperor, the undying sky emperor, and the immortal Qing Wan immortal, were a total of 36 army commanders. Other than the Vajra king needing a new divine soul, the rest were easy to deal with. A moment later, the 36 army commanders of the immortal court were officially completed. It's a pity that the 4 half-immortal emperors were disintegrated into energy during the battle with the darkness immortal emperor. Otherwise, we would be able to create 4 more quasi-immortal emperor-level marshals. The only one left was the dark immortal emperor, who had turned into a specimen. Liu hadn't thought of a way to deal with this guy yet, so he could only keep it in the resource warehouse for now. Come out, officers of the immortal court. With a wave of his hand, a large group of tall and straight figures appeared in front of Liu. Your subjects kowtow and salute to His Majesty Emperor Yu. After the officers of the immortal court appeared, they kowtowed to Liu. Get up. Liu nodded and gestured for everyone to get up. 36 immortal kings, 180 true immortals, and 30 great emperors. No matter how deep the waters of the origin world were, this force was enough to overturn the heavens. Come with me. Liu led a group of officers of the immortal court to the main hall of the immortal mansion. He gathered the people of the immortal mansion and met them. Sai, from now on, apart from the people of the immortal mansion, everyone else will move to the South Parting Island. With such a strong force under his command, the South Parting Island had become an unbreakable base. There was no need for the Golden Crow, Jade Hare, Fire Phoenix, Ice Phoenix, and True Dragon to stay in the immortal mansion. From now on, the immortal mansion would be Li Yu's inner mansion. Apart from Cai, Xiaoling, Wang Shu, Jin Kai, and Teng Qing, there was no need for the others to stay in the immortal mansion. Yes, Cai accepted the order and quickly gathered the people living in the immortal mansion. Let's go. Let's go to the South Parting Island. With a step, Li led a large group of subordinates and instantly appeared on the gazing river peak of Kangwu Mountain. This is the South Parting Island. The entire island is our base. From now on, this place will be under your protection. Liu pointed to the land in front of him and instructed his subordinates. We will protect our territory with our lives. The officers of the immortal court accepted the order and saluted in an orderly manner. Very good. Liu was very satisfied with their attitude. With this group of powerful fighters, the South Parting Island could focus on its construction. I also took in a few life forbidden zones that are suitable for transforming the South Parting Island. Of the 7 life forbidden zones in the eastern wilderness, The reincarnation sea had been destroyed, and the immortal graveyard had been destroyed by Li Yu. The desolate ancient forbidden zone had been destroyed by Vicious himself. The Sky Burial Island had been turned into a shopping center. Now, Li Yu only had the origin ancient mine, the ruins of God, and the undying mountain left. The origin ancient mine was rich in origin stones, even divine origins, immortal origins, and origin life stones. Li Yu did not plan to leave such abundant earth vein spirit chi in the south parting island. It was more suitable to transform the earth vein spirit chi in the immortal mansion. The undying mountain was a vast divine mountain that was suitable to merge with the south parting island. He waved his hand and took out the undying mountain. Heaven and earth chi circulated as he pressed his palm down. Boom! A loud sound rang out. At the border between the central plains and the wildlands, there was a mountain range. It was thousands of kilometers in circumference, and it towered into the clouds, piercing through the clouds. Brilliant radiance shone as majestic spirit chi erupted. Clouds rose, and immortal light fell like rain. Such a huge commotion naturally alarmed everyone on the south parting island. His Majesty Emperor Yu has cast a spell to rebuild the mountains and rivers. There is no need to panic. Kai Yi hurriedly ordered the world to calm everyone's panic. His mighty voice spread across the world. When the name Emperor Yu came out, no one would be surprised no matter how big the commotion was. Since I have established an immortal court, I naturally need some buildings that meet the requirements. Li Yu waved his hand and released the life-forbidden zone, the Ruins of God. The Ruins of God is the southern heavenly gate of the ancient heavenly court. In addition to the majestic gate, there are countless palaces that stretch for 10,000 miles. It is suitable to be used here. Heaven and earth chi circulated and purified all the buildings of the southern heavenly gate. With a wave of his hand, this vast palace was sent out. Starting from the undying mountain, it extended to the end of the earth. A vast and majestic palace stretched for 10,000 miles. It was vast and boundless. The undying mountain and the southern heavenly gate merged into one and turned into Li Yu's immortal court on the south parting island. From now on, you will be stationed in the immortal court of the undying mountain and be responsible for guarding this territory. After instructing the army behind him, Li Yu waved his hand and swept everyone up and sent them directly into the newly built immortal court. The Fire Phoenix, Ice Phoenix, Golden Crow, Jade Rabbit, and 1,000 dragons, as well as the officers of the immortal court, were all settled in the newly built immortal court. Li Yu also refined the net puppets that he had obtained on the south parting island. He used the soul power of 8 dark immortal kings to reconstruct the soul of this puppet army. After the soul of this puppet army was reconstructed, it became a real army. Although these original net puppets were not too strong, they were enough to serve as small soldiers. He directly sent this army of hundreds of thousands from the resource warehouse to the immortal court and handed it over to a group of commanders, letting them distribute the soldiers on their own. Li Yu no longer cared about it. His Majesty Emperor Yu's immortal court army was officially established. Chapter 714. It's time for the net to be upgraded. Looking up at the sky, the inescapable net had enveloped the entire South Parting Island. The main purpose of this net was to protect South Parting Island and isolate the destructive storm caused by the battle between true Lord Lai Tian and true Lord Tian Luo. I naturally have to get rid of the destructive storm this time. However, it's not bad to leave this net here as a protective array. With a flash, Li Yu arrived at the center of the net in an instant. A crystal spider was lying in the palace hall at the center of the net. This crystal spider was the artifact spirit of the net. It really became the cave of the silken web. Back then, Li Yu had casually given this place the name Cave of the Silken Web. At this moment, seeing this crystal spider lying in the center of the net, it really did look like the Cave of the Silken Web. I'll refine the net with my own Great Tao laws and upgrade it to an immortal emperor weapon. At that time, South Parting Island will have another immortal Emperor-level protective array, and it will be as stable as Mount Tai. He walked into the palace hall and sat down on the tall throne. With a press of his hand, endless radiance flowed out. The great Tao blended and the Tao laws were refined. Under the mighty radiance, the net rapidly transformed and sublimated. With the immortal Emperor Tao laws engraved in it, everything flowed naturally. After a while, the inescapable net had officially been upgraded to an immortal Emperor weapon. Very good. An immortal Emperor's weapon wasn't something that just anyone could provoke. Liu was very satisfied with the net's upgrade. According to the power levels of the origin world, the heavenly realm was divided into heavenly man, heavenly monarch, and heavenly venerate. Great emperors and true immortals belonged to the heavenly man level. Mortal immortals and immortal kings belonged to the heavenly monarch level. Quasi-immortal emperors and immortal emperors belonged to the heavenly venerate level. Liyu's current immortal emperor level made him a top-notch heavenly venerate in the origin world. I'm worthy of being a supreme venerate. Liu smiled and took a step forward. He left the center of the net and arrived at the world outside the net. In front of him was a violent and boundless storm of destruction. The chaotic void, turbulence, and the violent storm of destruction wantonly swept and crazily attacked. Heaven and earth was in chaos. This storm of destruction has been wreaking havoc for many years. It's time to clear it out. This destructive storm isolated South Parting Island into an isolated island, completely losing contact with the outside world. If it was in the past, Liu would not be able to bring out a few strong soldiers and generals under his command, and he would only be by himself. It was a good thing that this destructive storm had isolated South Parting Island. But now, Liu already had a large group of immortal kings under his command. He wasn't worried that his nest would be destroyed when he went to other worlds. In this case, clearing out the annihilating storm and allowing South Parting Island to reconnect with the outside world was very valuable. Wasn't there an old saying, "Seclusion is not the way of development. Erect the mountain gate first." With a wave of his hand, Liu released the majestic southern heavenly gate. Endless black and yellow energy surged up. The southern heavenly gate stood tall outside the South Parting Island. Behind it was a vast palace that stretched for thousands of miles. That's more like it. Now we can sweep through the turbulent storms. With a wave of his hand, endless brilliance swept up. It surged out like a wave. Under this brilliance, the violent, destructive storm dissipated in an instant. The chaotic void, turbulence calmed down in an instant. Order and law were reconstructed one by one, and destruction and chaos calmed down one by one. The brilliance swept across and cleansed the vast sky. All destruction and chaos calmed down. On this day, in the outer sea of the southern heaven region, this forbidden land that had been shrouded in the destructive storm for many years suddenly shone with endless brilliance. Sacred and brilliant, incomparably brilliant. Like a scorching sun rising from the sea, it illuminated the world. The storm dissipated and the sea was clear. This mysterious land that had been shrouded in the destructive storm for countless years was once again displayed in front of the cultivators of the southern heaven region. What is that? The destructive storm dissipated? Look, the destructive storm dissipated. At this moment, countless cultivators of the southern heaven region raised their heads and looked into the distance, looking at the once destroyed land outside the southern heaven region. This land of destruction was no longer a land of destruction. There was brilliant light, there was immortal clouds lingering, there was multicolored light. The destructive storm that had raged for countless years, in this brilliance, seemed to have been wiped out by a pair of invisible big hands. When the brilliance dissipated, an overseas immortal mountain appeared in front of the cultivators of the southern heaven region. A splendid and majestic mountain gate stood tall, and behind it was a magnificent and vast palace. The majestic mountain towered into the clouds, straight into the sky. Immortal clouds lingered around, multicolored light boundless. a magnificent immortal palace. That's an immortal mountain. Such a scene, it must be the residence of a great sect. It's just, in that destructive storm, there is such a great sect? I'm afraid it's the reclusive sect, the destructive storm that shrouded the outer sea. Maybe it's the great mountain protection array of the sect. In the past, the sect was closed, so there was a destructive storm. Obviously, they opened the mountain gate, and the storm naturally disappeared. It makes sense. It must be so. Countless cultivators of the Southern Heaven region looked at the scene in the distance, discussing and guessing, but no one planned to step forward. After all, whether it was the destructive storm or the brilliance that extinguished it, that kind of divine power was not something that ordinary people could afford to provoke. Liu did not care about the impact this action would have on the cultivators of the Southern Heaven region. After quelling the destructive storm and building the mountain gate, Liu turned and returned to Kangwu Mountain. Although the new immortal court had been built, Kangwu Mountain was a place that Liu was used to, so he had no plans to move for the time being. Green Lotus clone? After finishing his work, Liu returned to his residence at the peak of the river Gazing Peak, only to find the Green Lotus clone sitting in the pavilion in the courtyard, drinking tea. A young girl in white stood beside him. She exuded a cold moonlight, like a fairy in the moon, ethereal. "Big brother, you're back." When she saw Liu enter, a look of joy appeared on the girl's cold face. With a flash of moonlight, she landed in front of Liu, cheering. "Ting Ting, you've grown so big." The tall, graceful, and beautiful young girl in front of him was little Ting Ting. In the blink of an eye, that little girl had grown into a stunning beauty. Liu could not react for a moment. Little Ting Ting and the Green Lotus clone had traveled to other worlds through the interplanar teleportation formation together, and it had been many years. It was very normal for a little girl to grow up. Quasi-Emperor realm? Not bad. Little Ting Ting's strength had risen to the Quasi-Emperor realm, so it seemed that she had worked hard during this period of cultivation. However, the Green Lotus clone's cultivation did not improve at all, and was also at the Quasi-Emperor realm. There must be something wrong here. Chapter 7:15. I see. He walked to the pavilion and sat down opposite the Green Lotus avatar. The divine souls that originated from the same body converged. In an instant, he understood all the information in his heart. This is the drawback of the avatar. After understanding the reason, Liu sighed helplessly. The Green Lotus avatar was one of Liu's assets. Back then, the Green Lotus avatar was Liu's greatest reliance. With the combination of the Green Lotus avatar and the Green Lotus Emperor weapon, he had unparalleled divine power and stood firm in this world. However, today his greatest support could no longer keep up with Liu's own footsteps. I can't increase my cultivation. The Green Lotus avatar raised his head and smiled helplessly. The path of cultivation is essentially about constantly improving oneself. If this avatar continues to improve, it will inevitably lead to a more stable self. In that case, it will be very troublesome. This was the reason why the Green Lotus avatar could not continue to improve his cultivation. Once the Green Lotus avatar improved his cultivation and became a great emperor or even a genuine immortal, it would inevitably bring about a problem. That was, the Green Lotus avatar self would be more stable and completely become another complete and independent self. Two selves, two independent selves, this was very troublesome. There could only be one self and only one self. If there were two selves, in the end they could only fight with themselves and kill the other self to have the one true self. When the Green Lotus avatar discovered this problem in the process of cultivation, it could not continue to cultivate and could only stop. In essence, the Green Lotus avatar was Liu. Naturally, it did not want to see the two selves fighting. It seems that this avatar has reached the end, and there is no point in continuing to exist. Liu sighed and looked up at the Green Lotus avatar. He smiled and said, "In that case, come back." "I'm coming back." A green light lingered. The Green Lotus avatar turned into a green light and entered Liu's body. Since then, the avatar had returned to the original body and merged into one. The existence called Li Bai, courtesy named Tai Bai, nicknamed Green Lotus, known as Grandmaster Green Lotus, had disappeared. Brother Qinglian, Tingting watched as the Blue Lotus avatar transformed into a beam of light and fused into Liyu's body. She also knew that this big brother Blue Lotus would no longer exist in the future. Brother Qinglian. With a flash of green light, Liyu instantly transformed into the Green Lotus doppelganger. With a flash of light, Liyu returned to his original appearance. After the fusion of the clones, it was equivalent to Liyu having the Green Lotus transformation in addition to the True Dragon transformation. Although it didn't mean much, it was still a way to commemorate the time when he became the Green Lotus Grandmaster. Yes, Brother Qinglian is brother himself. Tingting smiled and raised her hand to release a beam of moonlight. Big brother, look, my cultivation is not bad now. Not bad. Little Tingting has improved a lot. Liyu laughed heartily and habitually reached out to rub little Tingting's head, messing up her beautiful hair. Big brother. Tingting gloomily slapped away Liyu's hand. I'm not a child anymore. All right, Tingting is a big girl now. Liyu awkwardly retracted his hand. He suddenly felt that time had passed very quickly. In the blink of an eye, the little girl of that year had grown up. Brother Yu, are you here? At this time, a beam of light flashed across the sky. A girl in a light yellow dress arrived and landed in the courtyard. Inluo, you are here. Seeing the young girl who had landed in the courtyard, Liyu smiled and greeted her. She was Inluo. After eliminating true Lord Luo Tian in the War of the Heavens, Liyu gave Inluo the bloodline of a mortal indestructible body and fused it with true Lord Luo Tian's avatar. At this time, Inluo's cultivation had also improved a lot. Brother Yu, are you going to move? Inluo naturally knew that Liyu had created a disturbance in the Divine Mountain Immortal Court. She raised her head and looked at Liyu. All kinds of feelings welled up in her heart. That year, her father, In Kongming, had picked up a youngster from the roadside. But now he had achieved so much. It was simply like a dream. I don't plan to move for the time being. Liyu smiled at Inluo. The Immortal Court isn't far from here. I will set up a teleportation formation in the river Gazing Peak. So, even if you want to move in the future, it will be very convenient for you to come and go. But you'll have to leave sooner or later. Inluo inexplicably felt sour in her heart. Even though the Immortal Court was very close, and it was very convenient for them to come and go, Inluo still felt as if there was a sense of alienation. I haven't seen the Immortal Court since it was built. How about we go and have a look together? Liyu glanced at the two girls beside him. Then, he stretched out his hand and waved it. Radiance lingered and the laws of Tao interweaved. A teleportation formation was constructed in the courtyard. Let's go. Let's go and have a look together. Liyu made an inviting gesture and nodded at the two girls. Okay, I was just about to go and see what Elder Brother's Immortal Court looks like. Tingting walked forward with a smile and stood beside Liyu. Then, I will also go and have a look. Inluo looked at Tingting, who was standing beside Liyu. She suddenly realized that the girl in front of her was actually the little girl who had followed Ancestor Green Lotus in those years. This made Inluo feel astonished. How did you grow so big in the blink of an eye? What on earth did you eat? How did you grow so fast? Let's go. He waved his hand, and the teleportation formation flashed with radiance. The three of them arrived at the peak of the majestic Immortal Mountain in an instant. This was the peak of the Immortal Mountain. Auspicious clouds were lingering in the surroundings. There was a majestic and magnificent palace in front of them. We pay our respects to His Majesty Emperor Yu. As soon as the three of them appeared, the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals of the Immortal Court who were guarding the main hall kowtowed to greet them. Their auras were vast, and their cultivations were unfathomable. They prostrated themselves in front of Liyu as if they were subjects worshipping their king. This scene shocked Inluo so much that she stared blankly. The cultivations of these soldiers and generals were so powerful that it was beyond imagination and comprehension. Any one of them was enough to sweep across the entire Middle-earth. However, these people were only the subordinates of Ugur. Ugur is already so powerful. At this moment, Luo felt a sense of loss. She felt that the distance between her and Ugur seemed to be very far. The young man who was under her care back then was now standing above the clouds. She could only look up to him. During the War of the Heavens, Luo was possessed by Heavenly True Lord, so she didn't see Li Yu's heroic bearing when he vowed to fight the heavens. Later, although she had heard some people talking about it after she recovered, she didn't see it with her own eyes. Therefore, she didn't take it too seriously. At this moment, seeing this scene, Luo was greatly shocked. Ba pays his respects to Ancestor. On the ground in front of the huge palace, Dragon's son Baxia's huge head rose from the ground like a mountain. The palace on the peak of the Immortal Court's Immortal Mountain was naturally the supreme palace on Dragon's son Baxia's back. Chapter 716. 3 days passed. After returning from the Immortal Court, Luo was silent, especially when she saw Tsai and the others in the main hall of the Immortal Court. She felt even more bitter. Ugu-Er's maidservants were countless times stronger than her. Even the little girl, Ting from back, then had surpassed her in cultivation at this moment. This made Luo very sad and disappointed. After returning to Kangwu Mountain, Luo hurriedly left and immersed herself in cultivation. Luo, what's wrong with her? Luo's abnormal behavior made Li Yu very surprised and puzzled. Maybe she feels that her strength is too weak. Ting blinked her eyes and smiled sweetly. Brother, she saw that a little girl like me is stronger than her. Then she saw that Sister Tsai and the others are of similar age, but their strength far surpasses hers. Naturally, she is not convinced. Tsai and the others' age. Well, it's good to cultivate diligently. Liu waved his hand carelessly. He really didn't know how to compare her age with Tsai and the others. Therefore, Liu took a big step forward on the road of destined to be alone. Your Majesty, something happened. Come take a look. At this time, Tsai's figure flashed in front of Li Yu and reported to Li Yu, Your Majesty, Commander Jean of the Immortal Court just reported that someone tried to attack the Great Net Formation. We just opened the mountain gate, and someone came to throw away their life? Who is so blind? Li Yu smiled and shook his head. Let's go take a look. After saying that, Li Yu took Tsai and Ting back to the main hall of the Immortal Mansion in an instant. Your Majesty, Commander Jean, the commander of the Immortal Court after the Vajra King's body was reconstructed, saw Li Yu and quickly came forward to report. Your Majesty, these 2 days we found some cultivators from the outside world spying on the south-parting Immortal Island. Since they didn't do anything else, we didn't pay attention to them. Speaking until here, Vajra King shook his head. Your Majesty, a group of cultivators suddenly tried to attack the Great Net Formation just now. Then, not even dregs were left. Li Yu smiled and shook his head. Luo Jia, who dared to attack the Immortal Emperor realm, would die without leaving a single trace. This was the inevitable outcome. But there was actually someone who dared to have designs on South Parting Island. Are you tired of living? I already know about this. Keep your defenses tight and wait for my orders. Get ready to attack at any time. Since they had already provoked him, Li Yu was not a soft-hearted person. If he did not show them some power, they would be treated as a soft persimmon. As you wish. The Vajra King accepted the order and left. It seems that the Southern Heaven region is also not a good place. I've just opened the mountain gate, and someone is already provoking me. Li Yu sneered and waved his hand, summoning the crystal spider lying in the center of the net. Since these people had died under the net, the crystal spiders would naturally have clues. Go back in time and replay the scene. Zhang Xian pointed his finger, and a light screen burst forth from the crystal spider, displaying the scene of the group of people attacking the net. On the screen, streaks of flowing light whizzed over. It's really an immortal island. A middle-aged man, who was the leader, stood on top of the flowing light. He raised his eyes and looked at the immortal mountain, immortal island in front of him, his eyes shining. Such a sacred place actually fell into the hands of a group of uncivilized aborigines. It's simply a waste of God's gift. The immortal mountain, immortal island belongs to the virtuous. I'll kindly accept it. The middle-aged man laughed loudly and led a group of subordinates, rushing forward aggressively. He had the intention of intimidating the group of enemies and establishing supreme prestige. Then, the net only rippled a little, and this group of people turned into flying ash. The screen stopped there. Strange. What immortal mountain, immortal island falling into the hands of uncivilized aborigines? Where did this come from? Where did they get such great confidence? Liu had swept away the turbulent storm in one fell swoop, and the divine light shone over the world. With such a scene, anyone with a little bit of eyesight would know that this place could not be provoked. How could such a thing happen? If there were really powerful enemies from the great sects who came to provoke him, Liu had some intention of fighting with them. But such a group of dregs, he was completely uninterested. However, there must be a reason for such a thing to happen. Liu turned to look at Sai and Ting. Our South Parting Island is located in the outer sea of the Southern Heaven region. What is the Southern Heaven region like? I haven't seen it yet. Are you interested in going with me to see it? Want to go? Want to go? Brother hasn't taken me out to play for a long time. Ting's face was full of joy as she cheered. When Your Majesty goes out, Sai will naturally accompany you. Sai naturally would not have any objection. We're going to understand the situation of the Southern Heaven region. We need to keep a low profile. You should restrain your aura and don't show too much strength. After telling the two of them, Liu stretched out his hand to pull the two of them. His figure flashed, instantly breaking the void, crossing the vast ocean, and came to the coastal sea of the Southern Heaven region. Different from the outer sea of the Southern Heaven region where the South Parting Island was located, the coastal sea of the Southern Heaven region was covered with countless islands. On the sea's surface, huge ships whistled across the sea. In the sky, all kinds of flying boats, carriages, divine birds, and strange beasts whistled through the air. People came and went. It was very prosperous. Even the offshore islands are so prosperous. I'm afraid the inland of the Southern Heaven region is even more extraordinary. Liu's figure appeared on an uninhabited island. He waved his hand to release the 9 Dragons Rui carriage, which turned into a dragon boat and landed on the sea surface. I just took a look. This kind of ship is the most common. Let's go by boat. Liu took the two of them to board the 9 Dragons Rui carriage, which turned into a ship and drove forward unhurriedly. In this sea area, there are some cultivators coming and going. Your Majesty, with so many cultivators gathered here, this place must have some special products that are beneficial to cultivation. Sitting in the cabin, Sai took out a small stove and put on the ground. She put a teapot on it and made tea for Liu. Hey, enlightenment ancient tea, fortune divine spring? Not bad, not bad. Liu smelled the tea and nodded with a smile. This thing is good. With Ching's heavenly fortune dew, there's no need to worry about running out of tea leaves. We can often make tea to drink. Ching also planted a bunch of fruits. Immortal peaches, ginseng fruits, and heavenly immortal fruits. Those things are not ordinary, especially the heavenly immortal fruits. I put them all in the warehouse. Sai reported while making tea. Well, the heavenly immortal fruits can't be eaten carelessly. You take care of it. Don't let Ching spoil good things. This kind of trivial matter in the family was naturally left to Sai, the manager of the inner mansion, to deal with. Liu was too lazy to think about it. Your Majesty, please have some tea. Sai took out a few white jade teacups, poured the boiled tea into them, and gave Liu and Ting a cup each. Good tea. Little Ting drank a mouthful of tea and felt thousands of Tao rhymes flowing in her heart. It was very magical. It is indeed good tea. You should drink more of this thing. It's good for cultivation. At Liu's level, the Enlightenment ancient tea had no value. At most, it was just a taste. Stop the ship. At this time, a loud shout sounded. A huge gust of wind smashed in front of the bow of the ship, setting off a monstrous wave. Several figures wearing heavy armor and holding long spears stood in front of Li Yu's ship with ferocious expressions. "You're provoking me again?" Li Yu frowned and was very annoyed. Chapter 717. What's going on over there? The huge commotion caused by blocking the ship was very conspicuous in this bustling water region and attracted the attention of countless people. "We're here on the orders of the Blue Cloud Island Master to investigate the bandits. Unrelated people, back off. Violators will be killed without mercy." A group of warriors in black armor and holding spears surrounded Li Yu's ship. Seeing that there were people talking about it, one of the leaders coldly swept his gaze over and shouted, "Blue Cloud Island? Go, go." Hearing the black-armored man say his name, the passing ships all left, not daring to say anything more. "Everyone in the boat, get out." The black-armored leader stared coldly at the ship. "How dare you steal my master's most valuable spiritual item? How dare you?" So it was caused by the enlightenment ancient tea. Hearing the black-armored man's words, Li Yu thought for a moment and knew the reason. He had been very low-key on this trip and had even changed his carriage into the most common ship here, not revealing anything that was eye-catching. The only possibility was the enlightenment ancient tea. They want to steal treasures when they see them and casually accuse others of stealing. This so-called Blue Cloud Island is probably used to being tyrannical. Li Yu waved his hand. "They're very noisy. Go and get rid of them." "Yes." Kai bowed and was about to get up when she realized that Ting Ting had already rushed out. "Let me do it." Little Ting Ting's figure flashed and turned into a beam of moonlight that broke through the air. So it's a woman. "Brothers, we can still have some fun on this trip." Seeing little Ting Ting appear, the black-armored men's eyes lit up and revealed a perverted look in their eyes. "Go to hell." Little Ting Ting's heart surged with anger. She put her hands together and a beam of cold and bright moonlight shone. The cold moon hung in the sky. It was incomparably bright and untainted by a speck of dust, but it carried an aloof coldness. In the blink of an eye, all the black-armored men surrounding the ship were frozen into ice sculptures. Xiao Ting Ting had a lunar body and cultivated the lunar scripture. As a quasi-emperor, she already had the potential to be a proud empress. After being raised by Li Yu for so many years, he finally didn't grow up crooked or become a useless person. This was really something worth celebrating. She actually dared to attack the people of Blue Cloud Island? This. Hurry up and leave. Hurry up and hide far away. Don't get into trouble. Xiao Ting Ting's attack shocked everyone around her. Countless passing ships were in chaos, fleeing far away from this troublesome place. "How dare you, lowly servant? How dare you injure my Blue Cloud Island's inspector? You're courting death." Behind Li Yu's ship, a furious roar burst out from a huge iron-armored warship. "Men, capture that lowly servant for me. Tonight, this young master wants to." Before this young master on the iron-armored warship could finish his words, he was already finished. Boom! A colorful light whizzed up. Kai erased her eyebrows, shouted, and swung her palm down. A huge palm print that blotted out the sky and covered the earth slammed down. With one slap, the iron-armored warship was smashed into fine powder. Everything, including the people on the ship, turned into flying ash. "You're really courting death." Kai snorted, waved her sleeves, and returned to the ship. "Sister Kai, I can do it myself." Seeing Kai destroy the iron-armored warship, Xiao Ting Ting stomped her feet gloomily. She wanted to fight for a chance to show off in front of Li Yu, but Kai snatched it away. She was very unhappy. "You're really sure you can do it yourself?" Li Yu pulled Xiao Ting Ting over with a smile and explained, "There's a Sky Realm cultivator on that warship. His cultivation is slightly higher than yours. Little guy, keep working hard." "I'm not little anymore." Xiao Ting Ting gloomily shook off Li Yu. "Yes, you're not little anymore. Liu answered casually. It was just that. Xiao Tingting's figure was tall and curvaceous, and her breasts were towering. She was indeed not small. Your Majesty, this so-called Blue Cloud Island will probably cause more trouble. How about we just destroy it directly to prevent them from causing more trouble? Kai also followed Liu's habit of doing things. She wouldn't wait for others to come knocking on her door before taking action. It was more direct and effective to destroy the enemy before they retaliated. Blue Cloud Island? Our immortal court can't always hide in South Parting Island. We need to extend some tentacles to the outside world. This Blue Cloud Island is not bad. Liu took a sip of tea and nodded with a smile. Your Majesty is wise. Kai took out a message talisman and was about to inform the garrison of the immortal court to summon an army to flatten Blue Cloud Island in one fell swoop. No need to call them. Liu stopped Kai. No need to reveal our identity publicly. It's more advantageous for us to control Blue Cloud Island in secret. After being the mastermind behind the scenes for so long, Liu is used to controlling everything in secret. Yes, Kai naturally wouldn't have any objection if Liu wanted to do it by himself. Kai put away the talisman and steered the ship towards Blue Cloud Island. When Xiao Tingting had killed the group of black armor men, Liu had already captured their souls, so he had already understood the inside story of Blue Cloud Island. Blue Cloud Island was a tyrannical force in the heavenly south coastal region. It controlled the surrounding 100,000 miles of sea area and was infamous for its ferocity. Blue Cloud Island was domineering and tyrannical. It was the overlord of the heavenly south coastal region, and no one dared to provoke it. However, today, someone actually dared to provoke the hegemon of the offshore waters that no one dared to provoke. Who? Who is it? Who dares to harm my child's life? A ferocious roar soared into the sky, and a terrifying aura shook the surrounding void to the point of rumbling. A dense blue cloud of smoke billowed up, covering the entire Blue Cloud Island in a cloud of blue with a hint of green. Island Lord, why are you so angry? What happened? Harm my child's life? Did someone attack young Island Lord? Who dares to do so? The Blue Cloud Island Master was enraged. Countless people on the Blue Cloud Island trembled in fear under this terrifying might. Boom! At this moment, a ship swept across the sea and soared into the sky, scattering the blue clouds in the sky and hovering high above the Blue Cloud Island. A ship? Isn't that a ship? Can it fly? This ship, which was supposed to sail in the sea, was actually flying through the air like a flying boat. This shocked countless people on Blue Cloud Island. Who are you? What brings you to my Blue Cloud Island? As the blue light flashed, a figure flew up from a mountain in the middle of Blue Cloud Island and blocked the ship's path. The aura from the ship was obviously that of a peerless celestial being, which was also a true immortal. This made Blue Cloud Island Lord very vigilant. Oh, nothing much. I just came to inform you. Liu walked out of the cabin with Kai, and Tingting. He smiled and nodded at Blue Cloud Island Lord. Inform me? What's the matter? Blue Cloud Island Lord was taken aback and a little confused. He had nothing to do with Liu, so what did he need to inform him about? It's not a big deal. Liu smiled and waved his hand. It's just that we killed your son in passing just now and didn't even inform you. We feel a little bad, so we came to inform you. Chapter 718. B** starred. Blue Cloud Island Master flew into a rage when he heard that. Blue Cloud Island Master was already enraged when his son was killed. Now that he heard Liu's mockery, his lungs were about to explode. Go to hell. The blue clouds in the sky surged and swept out like a raging tide. This was Blue Cloud Island Master's strongest ability. The name Blue Cloud came from this. This blue cloud contained an infinite amount of poison. Countless opponents, including those who were at the peak of the divinity realm, had died under this poisonous blue cloud. The Blue Cloud Island Master was confident in his poison. Even a peerless divinity would not be able to withstand this poison. Unfortunately, The opponent in front of him was too terrifying. Everything is an illusion. Even if it was a poison, it was formed from the intertwining of the laws of heaven and earth. As long as it did not exceed the scope of the laws of heaven and earth, it was completely meaningless to Li Yu. Disperse. With a gentle flick of his sleeve, the blue clouds in the sky disappeared. All the abilities and magic power disappeared without a trace. What kind of cultivation is this? His peerless ability was destroyed by someone with a casual wave of his hand. This scene was completely unimaginable and incomprehensible. This scared Blue Cloud Island Master silly. You're just an illusion. With a snap of his finger, the power of order directly annihilated the Tao law that Blue Cloud Island Master had condensed, erasing the foundation of his existence. Then, this person disappeared just like that. For no reason at all, a living person was gone just like that. This is erasure. Li Yu smiled and suddenly thought of a certain Lord God who seemed to like doing this. Directly erasing a person's existence from the laws of order was like deleting a program in a computer. Without the foundation of existence, it would naturally cease to exist. Your Majesty is amazing. He congratulated with a smile. Brother, what kind of power is this? I don't seem to feel any magic power fluctuations. Little Ting could not understand Li Yu's ability. This is my Tao, the Tao of order origin. All kinds of supernatural powers and thousands of spells are within the laws of order. All powers are created by one's mind. Li Yu smiled and said, your current cultivation level is still not high enough. When you reach my level, you will naturally understand. Island, where's the Island Master? It was only at this moment that the people of Blue Cloud Island suddenly realized that their incomparably tyrannical, incomparably powerful, and incomparably terrifying Island Master had actually disappeared. At a glance, the fiendish aura above their heads doesn't dissipate. They are all extremely vicious people. In this way, I won't have any psychological barriers to annihilating your entire clan. He reached out and pressed down with his palm. Invisible Tao laws intertwined and circulated, and all the evil people on Blue Cloud Island disappeared. The entire Blue Cloud Island was cleaned up. All right, this place is ours. With a wave of his hand, Li Yu carved a teleportation formation on the mountain below. Gold Monkey King, take some men and set up camp here. After sending a message to the Immortal Court's Gold Monkey King, Li Yu steered the ship and turned to leave Blue Cloud Island. A moment later, the Gold Monkey King led a group of heavenly soldiers and took over Blue Cloud Island. This was the first tentacle Li Yu had stretched out. Someone attacked South Parting Island because of a mere rumor. After absorbing the souls of the Blue Cloud Island Master and the others and reading their memories, Li Yu discovered that someone had attacked South Parting Island because of a mere rumor. Legend had it that South Parting Island had an immortal abode of an ancient powerhouse. It had been hidden in a storm of destruction for countless years. It was only recently that the immortal abode opened and reappeared in the world, causing the storm to dissipate. However, the abode had been occupied by a group of natives living on the island. How could such a peerless opportunity fall into the hands of natives? Thus, blinded by greed, some people's brains weren't enough to process it. Where did this rumor come from? Li Yu furrowed his brows tightly. Any rumor wouldn't be gratuitous. This kind of rumor that was obviously directed at South Parting Island wouldn't appear out of thin air. There must be someone behind all this. However, South Parting Island was isolated from the world and had nothing to do with the Southern Heaven region. Why would someone deliberately target South Parting Island? The only ones who had some involvement with the Southern Heaven region were true Lord Lai Tian and true Lord Tian Luo. However, these two people had been fighting for countless years, and no one paid attention to them, and no one came to help. Logically speaking, it shouldn't have anything to do with them. More importantly, these two people were dead. It was impossible to set off any waves. This kind of little trick has no effect at all. The strength of South Parting Island is the top existence in the entire Southern Heaven region. I'm not afraid of them playing any tricks. No matter how powerful the rumor was, It was meaningless no matter how many people came to search for treasures. As long as there was no existence of the immortal emperor level, South Parting Island was simply an iron bucket. In the southern heaven region, the heavenly monarch was the most powerful existence. The heavenly monarch was just a legend. Besides, even if there was an immortal emperor-level figure, didn't South Parting Island have an emperor weapon, the net? Without a reason of life and death, an immortal emperor would not easily start a war with another immortal emperor. This was similar to how a nuclear bomb would not be easily launched. Seeing this net, even if an immortal emperor came, they would retreat. Blue Cloud Island has been annihilated. Have you heard? This was another island off the coast of Southern Heaven region. This island, called Mirage Island, was shrouded in fog all year round. Because this place was rich in a strange flower called Mirage Flower, there were many cultivators coming and going on this foggy island. At this moment, in a restaurant on Mirage Island, a group of cultivators were talking loudly and commenting on the people in the world. Unknowingly, they talked about the destruction of Blue Cloud Island. It is said that Blue Cloud Island provoked an extraordinary figure and was destroyed as a result. A cultivator took a sip from his wine cup and pretended to be mysterious. My second cousin's third nephew once passed by Blue Cloud Island and saw that big shot. Guess what kind of existence is that great figure? Don't show off. I'll pay for the wine. Quickly say it. A burly man urged impatiently. Hee, that great figure is a heavenly monarch. He is really awe-inspiring and unparalleled in the world. Tisk. Nonsense. What kind of person is a heavenly monarch? How can he stay in a place like Blue Cloud Island? Which heavenly monarch doesn't live in a sacred mountain? You are completely talking nonsense. Everyone was very dissatisfied with this answer and directly got up and left without even paying for the wine. That Golden Monkey King has become a great figure. At the other end of the restaurant, Liu sat at the table and tasted the Mirage Flower, a specialty of Mirage Island. He slightly shook his head. Mirage Flower contains the power of illusion and makes people feel like they are floating in the air. Unfortunately, this thing is useless to me. I can't even taste it. After wandering around Southern Heaven region, Liu had a general understanding of the situation in Southern Heaven region. For the time being, he did not find any danger in the development of South Parting Island, so he did not plan to continue wandering. Let's go back. The origin world was very stable, so Liu was relieved. The sooner he opened the next world and completed the so-called authority task, the sooner he would be left hanging. Chapter 719. Everyone, this is some information about the outside world of South Parting Island. After returning to South Parting Island, Liu gathered all the Immortal King-level commanders and passed on the information he had collected about South Heaven's coastal waters. From this information, there are no forces in South Heaven's coastal waters that can threaten us. However, you can't slack off. The rumor of the so-called Immortal Mansion opening this time can't be ignored. Liu planned to start a new journey, so he naturally had to arrange things at home. I have arranged for Golden Monkey King to take charge of Blue Cloud Island and pay attention to the various changes in South Heaven region. You must cooperate with each other and guard this territory well. Please rest assured, Your Majesty, we will guard the Immortal Mansion and will not slack off. Everyone accepted the order and left. Liu brought Sai and the others back to the mall space. At this moment, the mall space had become Liu's inner mansion. Apart from Liu, only Tsai, Ting Ting, and the others lived here. The Primordium Ancient Mine hasn't been processed yet. It's just right to integrate it into the floating island's ley lines. He took out the Primordium Ancient Mine and slapped it out. The Primordium Ancient Mine was divided into 9 pieces and integrated into the 9 floating islands' ley lines. Boom! The 9 floating islands shook violently, and the majestic ley lines' spiritual energy surged. Ong! The underground dragon ley lines revealed the shape of a real dragon. The dragon's roar shook the sky, and the spiritual energy flourished. Heaven and earth converged. The ley lines, spiritual energy, and the celestial spiritual energy blended with each other, producing endless spiritual energy. The whole space was surrounded by immortal clouds, and the auspicious air was steaming. The spiritual energy was abundant to the extreme. This is what an immortal mansion should look like. After Liu finished casting the spell, he nodded in satisfaction at the sight before him. "Brother, this sister looks like me." At this time, Tingting brought Wang Shu to Liu. "Greetings, heavenly sovereign." Wang Shu greeted Liu. She also felt very close to Tingting. The two got along very well. "You two have similar physiques, and your strength comes from the power of the moon. You can communicate with each other." Xiao Tingting's Lunar Sutra and Wang Shu's Ice Spirit Holy Light could complement each other and complement each other. After chatting with Xiao Tingting and Wang Shu for a while, Jin Kai also came up. "Master, I found a lot of cultivation methods in the library. That Great White Essence Energy Sutra is suitable for me to cultivate. I wonder if Master will allow it?" Holding a book, Jin Kai bowed to Liu in greeting. "Oh, I forgot to mention it." Liu nodded. "Feel free to look through the books in the library. Once you find something that suits you, you can cultivate on your own. You don't need my approval." After returning this time, the books in the library were already very vast. All kinds of divine abilities, secret skills, heavenly techniques, and precious skills were suitable for everyone to increase their strength. "Thank you, Master." Jin Kai was overjoyed. She was originally formed from the rainbow immortal metal, so the Great White Essence Energy Scripture, which cultivated the 5 elements metal chi, was suitable for her to cultivate. "Your Majesty, can the sisters also use the weapons in the armory?" At this time, Sai and Xialing also came up. "If you find something suitable, you can choose one yourselves." These weapons and magic treasures were placed in the armory as collections. Except for a few quasi-mortal emperor-level divine weapons and the ancient bronze coffin, Liu didn't care much about the other things. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Everyone was overjoyed and thanked Liu. "All right, you can leave now." After sending everyone away, Liu went to the main hall of the immortal mansion and sat down, planning to start a new journey. Now that I think about it, this is already the 8th world that I've opened. After the 10th world, the authority level will be upgraded. I wonder what it will be like. Liu was still looking forward to the upgrade of the authority level. It was already so powerful without the upgrade. How powerful would it be after the upgrade? "System, open the next world." After the order was given, the system immediately responded. The same roulette appeared in front of Liu, but Liu found that there were more worlds on the roulette. In addition to the usual Xuanhuan and Xinxiao worlds, there was a new fantasy world added last time, and this time there was a sci-fi world. Main God world, Nightmare Realm, and that's an apocalyptic cultivation world, interstellar cultivation world. Liu found that as his strength increased, more and more new worlds appeared. However, these new worlds were all the same to Liu. No matter which world he went to, Liu's current goal was the same, and that was the laws of heaven and earth. Liu needed to trace back to the origin and achieve the origin of all time and space, the source of all things. This path would definitely be very long. He needed to absorb the laws of heaven and earth in countless worlds as resources for his own advancement. The more nutrients he absorbed, the faster and stronger he could grow. "Stop," he casually shouted, and the roulette came to an abrupt stop. Seeing the world pointed to by the pointer, Liu laughed. "That's interesting. I was talking about erasure a few days ago, and now I'm really going to a place where I can just erase." Main God world. This was the new world Liu was about to go to. Main gods, according to my understanding, should be a kind of manifestation of the laws, similar to the sorcerer world's weave. This kind of thing is an aggregation of the laws. Liu's advancement required the laws. A manifestation of the laws, like the main gods, was naturally a target that Liu had to have some ideas about. There are as many strengthening exchanges in that world as there are stars in the sky, uncountable. However, in essence, there is also the concept of a gene lock. This kind of thing can also be used as a reference. Whether it was the various strengthening exchanges or the gene lock in the fundamental sense, they were all beneficial supplements to Li Yu's great path of origin. So, should I cheat the main gods? Li Yu laughed heartily. This must be very interesting. After making up his mind, Li Yu immediately activated the interdimensional teleportation. A faint radiance lingered, enveloping Li Yu's entire body. His figure slowly turned illusory and disappeared. It was as if he had passed through the concept of time and space, directly jumping from one world to another. So this is how the system's teleportation works? At Li Yu's current level, he could finally understand some of the principles of the system's operation. In Li Yu's view, this kind of teleportation was like moving water from one cup to another. If the water in the cup could not jump out of this cup, it naturally could not move to another cup. Radiance filled the air. The teleportation had been activated, and Li Yu's figure began to turn illusory. Your Majesty, let me pour you some tea. This is... At this moment, Sai happened to walk over with a teacup. Suddenly seeing the strange state of Li Yu's body, Sai turned pale with fright and rushed over. Don't. Before Li Yu could finish speaking, Sai had already rushed to his side. Her soft and fragrant body was in his arms. In an instant, time and space flowed. Heaven and earth alternated, and another world changed. All right, you followed me to pour me some tea? Li Yu saw the teacup in Sai's hand and smiled helplessly. Oh. Together, together, together. Countless whistles, cheers, and cheers sounded behind him. Li Yu then realized that he was actually in the square of a modern city. Countless people were cheering all around. Thank you. Thank you. Li Yu hurriedly nodded. He pulled Sai and ran all the way out of the square. A very happy start, isn't it? Smiling and shaking his head, Li Yu waved his hand and cast a spell to cover their tracks. Only then did he have time to think about his next move. Thus, the journey to the main god's world officially began. Chapter 720. This is the so-called real world. On the other side of the city, Li Yu and Sai reappeared, strolling on the bustling streets of the city. Even though the two of them did not fit in with this era, in the eyes of others, the two of them were no different from the countless ordinary people in this city. No matter if it was Li Yu or Kai Yi, with their cultivation base, they could cast illusions to interfere with other people's five senses. It was as easy as blowing off dust. Your Majesty, where is this ordinary world? These mechanism techniques can be considered exquisite. Kai looked at the endless stream of people in front of her and couldn't help but ask Li Yu. It's just an extraterritorial, ordinary world. Li Yu smiled at Sai and said, I often travel the universe and the sea of stars. You should have known, right? Sai had traveled back and forth between a few worlds. Logically speaking, it should not be strange for her to travel between worlds. Your Majesty travels the mortal world. Sai naturally knows. It's just that this world seems a bit dirty. The mortal world is noisy. What's there to travel about? Although Tsai had been in and out of a few worlds, the air here was turbid. There was no spiritual energy of heaven and earth. She had completely fallen into the mortal world of the age of chaos. She had never come into contact with such a world, so she felt a bit uncomfortable. There are some unusual things about this world. Leah looked up at the sky. Looking directly at the rules, he could naturally see through the essence of this world. In fact, there was no such thing as a real world. The entire world was like a building. The realm of terror that had been opened in the God realm were like rooms in a building. The so-called God realm was like an elevator and a corridor, and this real world was just the floor of this building. Although it seemed like the God realm had infinite time and space, in fact, it was a world like a building. Let's go. The city is too noisy. Let's find a quieter place. This was the real world of the God realm, the capital of Huaxia country. In this huge city with a large population, there were long queues of vehicles on the road. People came and went, and it was noisy. This made the cultivators who were used to living in peace and tranquility unable to stand the hustle and bustle of the secular world. Kai, how about I use the teacup that you brought to me in exchange for a house? Liu glanced at Kai, looked at the teacup in her hand, and revealed a playful smile. Your Majesty, this teacup is made of immortal jade. Although it's only an ordinary item in the immortal mansion, if it's placed in the mortal world, then wouldn't it be a bit of a waste? Kai looked at the teacup in her hand, smiled, and shook her head. Although it was just an ordinary tool in an immortal mansion, if it was placed in the mortal world, it would be like a pearl covered in dust, right? We don't have the wealth of this world, and we don't intend to take it by force. Use this cup in exchange for a house as a place to stay. Although the resource vault could produce countless currencies, they would definitely be incomparably real. It was just that the inflation in this world was already so high, so there was no need to harm them anymore. It's all up to your Majesty. Kai, he didn't have any objection to Li Yu wanting to exchange the teacup. After all, it was just an ordinary tool in an immortal mansion. Even if it was covered in dust, it wouldn't be a big deal. The two strolled out of the city, and in a moment, they came to a green mountain ridge outside the city. The mountain forest here was verdant, and there were waterfalls and springs. It could be considered a quiet place outside the downtown area. There was a small lake at the foot of the mountain, and some villas were scattered around the lake. Liu found one of the villas and reached out to press the doorbell. Who is it? An old man in a Chinese-style short gown came out of the door and came to the front of the courtyard. Seeing Li Yu and Kai Yi, the old man was slightly startled. You too? What brings you here? Mr. Song, you're a master in the field of antiques. I inadvertently obtained a treasure, but I'm somewhat uncertain about it, so I came here to ask Mr. Song to take a look at it. Li Yu smiled and explained the purpose of his visit. I see. Mr. Song nodded and reached out to open the courtyard door. Please come in. Following the old man to the living room, Li Yu gestured to Kai, asking her to take out the teacup. Mr. Song, please take a look. Kai handed over the immortal jade teacup in her hand. A porcelain teacup. Looking at the white porcelain teacup, the old man didn't pay much attention to it first, but after receiving it, he suddenly trembled and almost dropped the teacup. Hetien Baiyu? No. It's even purer than Hetien Baiyu. It seemed to faintly reveal a sense of floating, as if an immortal was out of this world. There's actually such a divine item? The old man looked at the teacup in front of him, and his whole body trembled with excitement. Good treasure. A priceless treasure. Mr. Song, do you think this item is okay? Li Yu smiled and looked at Mr. Song. I wonder how much Mr. Song values this item. Value? It's rare in the world, one of a kind. This is a priceless treasure. Even if you really want to measure with money, without a few billion, you'd be embarrassed to quote a price. Old Man Song clicked his tongue and praised. He was very fond of the teacup in his hand, and he was very envious. If that's the case, I'll use this teacup to exchange for Mr. Song's house. There shouldn't be a problem, right? Li Yu took the opportunity to say his original intention. Exchange for the house. Use this teacup to exchange for my house. You are serious? Old Man Song raised his head in surprise, and he simply couldn't believe that there was such a good thing. Of course, I'm serious. Li Yu nodded without hesitation. Good. The house is yours. Although there are things inside, they're all yours. Old Man Song beamed with joy, and he was wild with joy. He hugged the teacup, and as if he was afraid that Li Yu would go back on his words, he turned and ran out of the house. The property certificate is in the cabinet in the bedroom. I'll call the lawyer immediately to settle the procedures. Everything in the house is all yours. A loud shout came from afar, and Old Man Song ran away like a wisp of smoke, and his shadow disappeared. So, this is where we'll stay. With a wave of his hand, an invisible wave swept across, and all the daily items in the villa were annihilated and disappeared. Then, with another wave of his hand, the newly exchanged daily items reappeared in the house. Little girl, go make the bed for me. A light ball shot out, and Liu transmitted the common sense of the real world into Tsai's mind. He waved at Tsai and asked her to tidy up the room. Yes. Tsai smiled sweetly. and pretended to salute. "Excuse me, do I still need to warm a bed?" "Warm the bed? Forget it. Let's change it to serving the bed." Liu teased Sai, laughed, and turned to walk out of the room. "The place to stay is ready. Now we need to make some preparations. The Master God should also be recruiting new reincarnators, right?" Chapter 721. The day of drunken stupor has begun again. A young man rubbed his eyes that were a bit red after a hangover. He gently pushed away the woman tangled around him and got up from the bed. The woman who was still sleeping on the bed was very unfamiliar. She should have been brought back to the hotel from the bar after getting drunk last night. "Okay, goodbye." After putting on his clothes, the young man waved his hand and walked out of the room. Looking up at the sun that had just risen in the east, the young man's eyes seemed to stab with a trace of tears faintly flashing. Even if I'm in a drunken stupor, even if I use alcohol and desire to numb myself, I still can't forget the heart-wrenching pain in my heart. What's the point of me living like this? The young man rubbed his cheeks, lonely and numb as he moved his feet, as if his life had already lost its goal, had already lost its meaning. "Luo Li, if only you were still alive. How great would that be?" The young man's footsteps suddenly staggered. He stood for a while holding onto the wall for support, then shook his head and continued to move forward, slowly disappearing into the flow of people. If there were no accidents, he would probably continue to be dispirited like this for the rest of his life. Of course there will be accidents. Zheng, next, you will face the greatest opportunity of your life. Of course, this is also the cruelest test. Liu stood on the street, looking at this young man who had no interest in life. A trace of a smile appeared on his face. The legendary Holy Mother Zheng is still a dispirited young man, not that hot-blooded young man who said, "I will lead everyone to live on together." Smiling and shaking his head, Liu didn't pay any more attention to this Holy Mother Zheng. Holy Mother Zheng's hot-blooded and Holy Mother personality is not suitable to Bi's chess piece. What if one day he gives you a sacrifice for others? Then wouldn't my investment be wasted? In the original trajectory of fate, Holy Mother Zheng didn't care about herself or others, risking her life and spilling her blood. This wasn't the first time she had done something like this. Senior Colonel Chu is actually a good candidate. Absolute rationality, unaffected by any emotional factors. It's just that people who are too smart are hard to control. What if I just make a move and he sees through it? Then how can I play? In terms of planning and scheming, Senior Colonel Chu was infamous. His name shook countless space-times. Liu had no intention of fighting a battle of wits with the host. That would be too much of a waste of time and energy. The female writer, Zhan Lan, can only be ruled out. The drawbacks of having a female host were too great. Based on her feelings for Holy Mother Zheng, once she gives the system to her, she will immediately share it with Holy Mother Zheng. Once a female host had a relationship problem, it would be a disaster. For the sake of love, he would disregard everything else. What was the system worth? Host, you should choose from the characters that appeared in the first act. In the first Resident Evil, there were a total of 6 people. Other than Zheng and Lan, there was also Mao Gang, high school student Xiaoi, and 2 people that didn't even have names. One was a middle-aged woman, and the other was a fatty. Mao Gang is a middle-aged man. His greatest wish is to return home to see his wife and children. Give him the system, and after he has earned enough reward points, he will turn around and go home. Definitely not. Mao Gang directly ruled it out. Xiaoi is narrow-minded. If he gets rich, he will definitely become a petty person. Perhaps he will become a champion. He will definitely bite back. Although he won't be able to cause any waves, once he becomes arrogant, he will definitely not survive past 2 episodes before the host changes. That's not worth it. The remaining 2 people that don't even have names. The middle-aged woman can't be considered. Give her the system. Other than throwing a tantrum, I really can't think of anything she can do. The only one worth observing was the fatty. Let's see how the fatty is first. If it doesn't work, then we can only wait for the second act. The professional killer that appeared in the second act is pretty good. Liu's gaze pierced through the void. He quickly found the fatty in a rented house in the city. Heal. Heal. F asterisk asterisk K. The crackling of the keyboard, the frantic clicking of the mouse, and the wanton curses and roars were the main melody in this small and dark basement rental house. The room was filled with stinky, dirty clothes, and there were unfinished instant noodles on the computer table. A fatty with a body full of fat and a head full of sweat was slumped on the chair. He stared at the computer screen and kept cursing. What kind of nanny is this? You don't even know how to heal. What a useless teammate. So it's a gaming nerd. Seeing this, Liu smiled and nodded. A gaming nerd saving the world. This kind of gaming nerd, and a fat one at that, is perfect for me. First of all, gaming nerds had rich combat experience, excellent skills, and flexible tactics. Although it was all about killing monsters and bosses in virtual games, but life was like a play. This God Space was originally a game for saints. As long as you treated everything you saw as monsters, as NPCs, you could just pick up your knife and kill monsters. Of course, this was not the key. The key was that this guy was easy to fool. A gaming nerd, and a fat one at that. Other than relying on the system, he had nothing to rely on. In this way, he would do whatever the system told him to do. Moreover, this gaming nerd was doing well in the virtual world. Such a person was also ambitious and wanted to be outstanding. He also wanted to dominate the world. That's very suitable. Liu nodded satisfactorily. Young man, it's time to be proud. The gaming nerd's chance to save the world has come. A light appeared on his fingertip. With a flick of his finger, the light entered the computer in front of the gaming nerd. Since you're a gaming nerd, I will give you a plug-in. Omnipotent plug-in. A godly tool for showing off. I have high hopes for you. Work hard, young man. At this time, the gaming nerd was stunned. F asterisk CK. Did I get a virus? On the gaming nerd's computer screen, a window suddenly popped up. Omnipotent plugin, a godly tool for showing off. This plugin has a powerful function beyond imagination. Young man, do you want to experience the thrill of instant kills? Do you want to dominate the arena and win every battle? Do you want to solo the dungeon and get all the godly tools? Do you want to enjoy the envious gazes of others? Do you want to hear your teammates shouting 666? Come on, with one click, you'll have the most powerful plugin in history. It's omnipotent. It's the godly tool you've been dreaming of. Looking at the exaggerated advertising messages on the screen, the gaming nerd was furious. Bastard, what's so bad about my machine? You're a hacker. Why are you hacking my game console? If you're so capable, go hack the Americans. He angrily slammed the keyboard. Suddenly, a message appeared on the screen. Press any key to continue. F asterisk CK. The computer screen shook. The character who was fighting the boss screamed and fell to the ground, dead. The boss only has a sliver of health left. The gaming nerd was so angry that his face turned red. He felt his vision go black. And then, their fates were completely different. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.